The eldest young lady of the Lu family, Lu Jihan, unfortunately met with an accident on the road and was kidnapped. She was devastated to discover that the mastermind behind it all was none other than her father, Lu Jia. Lu Jihan tried to escape, but unexpectedly ran into Nie Yingcong. He saved her, helped train and transform her, renamed her Wen Ruomian, and devised a revenge plan. Feelings gradually blossomed between them, but numerous difficulties always hindered their progress. Can Wen Ruomian overcome these obstacles? And where will their love lead? Stay tuned to Nezuko Movie Recap. Warm sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the entire room, where stylish clothes hung neatly on a rack. In a luxurious room, a young girl was sitting on the sofa, watching a maid select a suitable outfit. The maid held up a dress, smiled, and asked the girl, "Miss, this light blue dress really complements your skin tone." She smiled with satisfaction. "Let's go with that one." She was the eldest young lady of the Lu family, Lu Jihan. Her parents were already sitting at the dining table, waiting for her. Lu Jihan happily walked down the stairs, waving and saying, "Dad, Mom, good morning." Her father looked up, smiled, and waved back. "Come and sit down for breakfast, or it'll get cold." Her mother also smiled gently and said, "Jihan, are you ready for the charity ball tonight?" Lu Jihan replied with an excited look, "Yes, Mom. I'm really looking forward to it." By now, she had changed into a new dress, a blue one that highlighted her figure and complemented her beauty. Outside, Lu Jihan's driver, Uncle Wang, already had the car ready for her. Her car was driving down the road when suddenly, two black cars honked loudly from behind and accelerated towards Lu Jihan's car. The two cars quickly caught up, one driving closely alongside, while the other overtook and tried to ram her car. The black car blocked the road ahead, forcing Uncle Wang to brake hard. Screech. Lu Jihan lurched forward and asked anxiously, "Uncle Wang, what's wrong?" He said in a panic, "Miss, stay in the car. Don't come out." Then, Uncle Wang opened the car door, got out angrily, and said, "How are you people driving?" Before he could finish, someone rushed over and attacked him. The man landed a heavy punch on Uncle Wang's face, knocking him to the ground. Lu Jihan, who saw this from inside the car, screamed in terror, "Uncle Wang." Afterward, other thugs came forward and forcibly dragged her out of the car. Lu Jihan screamed in terror, "What do you want?" One of them grabbed her hand and laughed sinisterly, "Miss, don't worry. We're just inviting you to a party." They shoved Lu Jihan into another car and sped away, leaving Uncle Wang lying on the ground. Her terrified screams echoed in the car. "Let me go. Do you know who I am?" Accompanied by the kidnapper's triumphant laughter. Of course we know. The eldest young lady of the Lu family, you're our target. In a warehouse, the kidnappers tied her up on the floor, stood around Lu Jihan, and said condescendingly, "Miss Lu, your father will receive our message soon." She was too scared to speak, her face covered in tears. One kidnapper looked at her face with interest and said, "Truly a great beauty." As soon as he finished speaking, he reached out to touch Lu Jihan. Just then, a kidnapper next to him suddenly grabbed his hand and warned, "Don't touch her. The ransom hasn't arrived yet." She lowered her head, her eyes filled with tears. Lu Jihan was now covered in injuries. Suddenly, she caught sight of a glass shard by her feet. Lu Jihan secretly picked up the shard. At the Lu residence, Lu Jihan's father, Lu Jia, also received a call from the kidnappers. "Hello, is this the Lu family? Your daughter is in our hands." Mrs. Lu stood beside him, looking anxiously at her husband. His face turned pale as he shouted, "What? How much ransom do you want?" The kidnapper delivered the message and immediately hung up. Lu Jia angrily slammed down the phone and roared, "Damn it, how dare they touch my daughter?" He turned around and ordered a servant, "Prepare the ransom immediately. I want to ensure Jihan's safety." "Yes, master." Mrs. Lu stood aside, her expression anxious. She wiped away her tears and asked Lu Jia, "Honey, what should we do? Will something happen to our daughter?" He pulled her into his arms and comforted her softly. "It's okay. I will definitely rescue our daughter." Mrs. Lu couldn't stop crying. 10 hours later, in the warehouse, Lu Jihan muttered in terror, "Dad, why haven't you come to save me yet?" Her hands were bleeding from gripping the glass shard to cut the ropes. A kidnapper brought food for Lu Jihan. He kicked the bowl of rice to the ground, put his hands in his pockets, and said arrogantly, "Eldest young lady, eat up." Seeing no reaction from her, he grabbed Lu Jihan's head and forcefully pushed it into the bowl of rice. The kidnapper watched her struggle, laughed triumphantly, and left, haha, leaving Lu Jihan covered in injuries and grains of rice. Her eyes filled with determination as she thought, I must find a way to escape. After struggling for a while, Lu Jihan finally cut the ropes. She quietly approached the warehouse door and heard the kidnappers talking. Lu just said if we handle this cleanly, he'll give us more money. Then why didn't you let me have some fun with her earlier? Lu Jihan was stunned by their conversation. That old fox is willing to sacrifice even his own daughter. He's claiming to the public that he has paid a huge ransom, so as long as we disappear, he can transfer his assets smoothly. Her eyes widened in disbelief, and she trembled all over. This kidnapping was her father's plan. However, she quickly composed herself. Lu Jihan seized the opportunity and jumped out of a window. She ran away from the warehouse as fast as she could. Before long, a kidnapper's voice rang out. Damn it, the little bitch ran away. In Lu Jihan's mind, there was only one thought. I must survive. She ran to the main road, saw someone ahead, and shouted loudly, help. 3 men were standing by a car. One of them said, where did this crazy girl come from, daring to block our boss's path? She ran towards the 3 men with all her might, the kidnappers in hot pursuit behind her. Lu Jihan reached out to the man for help. She fell to her knees, wrapped her arms around his leg, and pleaded, please save me. The man didn't respond immediately. He looked at her coldly and asked, who are you? Lu Jihan looked at him with a pitiful expression, her big, round eyes filled with tears, and said, please save me. The man sat down, pinched her chin, and said, why should I help you? Her face was covered in tears, but her voice was filled with determination. As long as you save me, I'll do anything you ask. He smiled with interest and said, all right, I'll help you. After leaving the warehouse, Lu Jihan was taken to his residence. His subordinate brought her before him and said, sir, the person is here. By now, Lu Jihan had been cleaned up and looked much tidier than before. The man sat in a chair with his legs crossed, looking at her with an icy tone. I don't care what your name was or what family background you have. Now that you're here, from now on, you're Wen Ruomian. This is the place of your rebirth. She lowered her head sadly and said softly, okay. He walked over, pinched Lu Jihan's chin, forced her to look up at him, and commanded, louder. She suppressed her emotions and said with a determined expression, I will do my best, Mr. Nie. He smiled with satisfaction. Meanwhile, back at the warehouse, upon learning of Lu Jihan's escape, Lu Jia furiously beat the kidnappers. Useless trash. You can't even watch over a single woman. The kidnappers backed away in fear, timidly explaining, we followed the young lady's footprints deep into the forest and searched for 3 days without finding any trace. This forest is usually filled with miasma, and the surrounding villagers rarely go in. I'm afraid the young lady won't be coming back. He suppressed his anger and said cruelly, it's best if she died in there. With a body, I can get 100% of the insurance money. Now that she's missing, the insurance company will only pay half. Lu Jia looked at the kidnappers with a grim face. They said, we asked the villages for miles around, and no one has seen any sign of the young lady. She must have run into the forest. He turned to leave, not forgetting to threaten, search more carefully. The insurance money has already arrived. If anything goes wrong at this point, you can forget about getting the rest of your payment. In a certain forest, the man who saved Lu Jihan, Nie Yingcong, was standing aside, watching her practice martial arts. The coach reminded her, remember, every move must be precise and powerful. While practicing, Lu Jihan replied, yes, coach. He suddenly stuck out his leg and tripped her. Lu Jihan cried out in pain. Nie Yingcong did not help her up. He stood beside her and said, you can't even stand steadily. What moves are you trying to pull? Lu Jihan slowly got up, listening intently to his guidance. Pay attention to your posture and the distribution of your strength. Combat requires flexibility and agility. 1 year later, the delicate Lu Jihan had now transformed into the strong Wen Ruomian. She carried a large backpack, held a trekking pole, her expression resolute. Wen Ruomian, from now on, you are no longer a pampered young lady, but a girl who can protect herself. Wen Ruomian encouraged herself while climbing the mountain. Don't trust anyone. You can only rely on yourself to succeed. Come on, you can do it. She carefully clung to the cliff, striving to climb upwards. At dusk, Wen Ruomian also reached the summit. She stood at the summit, smiling as she watched the sun slowly set. The wind brushed past Wen Ruomian, blowing her beautiful hair. In a luxurious but dimly lit room, a person was sitting in a chair, savoring a glass of fine wine. A man holding a file walked in. Mr. Nie, these are Miss Wen's recent results. Please take a look. Nie Yingcong reached out, took the file, and began to look through it. He smiled with satisfaction, continued to sip the wine in his glass, and at the same time arranged her next schedule. Very good. Take her to Beijing tomorrow to learn new things. In Beijing, Wen Ruomian thought in surprise, is this the most famous Beijing in H City? She stood in front of the Beijing gate, carefully observing the place. After entering, a staff member guided Wen Ruomian, Miss Wen, please follow me. Your mentor is waiting for you. In the room, a woman in a chi pao was standing by the window. She said, you're here. She was the beauty of Beijing, Chen Ruoshi. Wen Ruomian stared blankly at Chen Ruoshi, marveling in her heart. So beautiful. She turned her head and looked out the window. Look, under the lights of Beijing. Under the dim lights, accompanied by lively music, everyone was dancing to their heart's content. Chen Ruoshi looked at the flirting men and women downstairs and continued, every soul finds its place, either in indulgence or in depravity. Then she turned to Wen Ruomian and smiled gently. With the way you're dressed, people can't exactly indulge. Chen Ruoshi pressed her down to sit in front of a mirror, her beautiful face close to Wen Ruomian's. I will start by teaching you how to apply makeup. In a room in Beijing, the table was filled with wine glasses. Nie Yingcong sat coldly in a chair with his legs crossed, holding a wine glass in one hand and resting the other on the chair. Two girls beside him wanted to pour him a drink. Chen Ruoshi pushed the door open and entered with a gorgeously dressed Wen Ruomian. He looked at her coldly, without saying a word. She whispered in Wen Ruomian's ear, Ruomian, your first task today is to seduce Nie Yingcong. Upon hearing this, her face turned red, and she shyly said to Chen Ruoshi, I don't know how to seduce people. She gently patted Wen Ruomian's shoulder to soothe her. It's okay, I'll teach you. Remember, seduction is not just about appearance, but also inner strength. She closed her eyes, listening to Chen Ruoshi's guidance. Believe in yourself. Every move you make must be filled with confidence and allure. Wen Ruomian opened her eyes with determination. Make Nie Yingcong unable to resist you. She slowly walked towards Nie Yingcong. He swirled the wine in his glass with a blank expression, watching Wen Ruomian approach him. Nie Yingcong closed his eyes and said impatiently, get out. She held a wine bottle, wanting to pour him a drink. Emer. Nah. He angrily knocked the wine bottle out of Wen Ruomian's hand. I told you to get out. Seeing this, Chen Ruoshi silently led her away. In the room, Nie Yingcong was still annoyed. He closed his eyes, frowned, and said, Lu Yunfei, tell Chen Ruoshi to control her person. I don't care how she wants to train her, but don't let her appear in front of me again. Yes, boss Nie. In Chen Ruoshi's room, she was still comforting Wen Ruomian. It's okay. The first time is always difficult. It's my fault. I shouldn't have given you such a difficult task from the start. Mr. Nie is indeed a bit hard to deal with. She smiled and said, I'll try again with you. She replied in disappointment. Okay. Beijing. 1 year later, in a private room in Beijing, Chen Ruoshi sat on the sofa dressed sexily, pouring a drink for a middle-aged man. Boss Huang, can we begin? He held a wine glass in one hand, the other resting on the chair, staring at her and saying repeatedly, yes, yes, yes. Chen Ruoshi stood up, looked at the stage, and clapped her hands to signal the start. Wen Ruomian appeared on stage, the lights shining on her, making her even more charming. She began to dance, her movements both elegant and seductive. Wen Ruomian bent over, revealing her hot figure. She glanced at Boss Huang and smiled slightly. He immediately reached out, saying with a lecherous expression, I want her. Boss Huang turned to Chen Ruoshi and said eagerly, I want her. She nodded slightly and handed him a card. Thank you, Boss Huang. In a room, Wen Ruomian sat timidly on the large bed in the center. Boss Huang walked in, saw her, and called out little beauty. Wen Ruomian looked at him in terror. She raised her hands to cover her body and said, trembling, don't come over. He stepped forward, reached out to grab Wen Ruomian's chin, and looked at her tearful face, saying, truly a top-quality item. She hurriedly moved her face away from Boss Huang's hand and said, trembling, I'm not for sale. They made a mistake. He didn't care about Wen Ruomian's pitiful expression. Boss Huang grabbed her hands and held them above her head, saying lustfully, it's not important whether you're for sale or not. It's your good fortune that I've taken a liking to you. Serve me well, and I'll guarantee you a life of luxury. Wen Ruomian suddenly broke free from his grasp. I said, I'm not for sale. She watched in horror as he grabbed her leg. Boss Huang caressed her fair legs and said, this is not up to you. Indeed, your legs are perfect, so beautiful. Wen Ruomian suddenly raised her hand and slapped him hard across the face. Boss Huang immediately pounced on her, saying, don't think you can be insolent in front of me just because you're pretty. He grinned with interest, a little interesting. Just then, Wen Ruomian struck Boss Huang with her elbow, and he immediately passed out on the bed. She ignored him lying there, calmly put on her cloak, and turned to leave. The doorknob suddenly turned with a click. Chen Ruoshi opened the door and walked in. That smelly man. She looked coldly at the unconscious Boss Huang. He has already ruined several of my sisters. Wen Ruomian handed Chen Ruoshi a USB drive. Send the information to his wife. She clutched the USB drive tightly in her hand. What about him? She turned and walked towards the bed, smiling. I'll take care of it. I'll be out in a moment. Half an hour later, a crowd gathered outside, their expressions disdainful. Ugh, what the hell is this? In an alley, Boss Huang was tied up and kneeling on the ground, with a sign on him that read, I am a pervert. Passers-by stopped to comment, so shameful. Exactly, he's really something. At the Lu residence, an old photo of Wen Ruomian was being held carefully. Her mother, Mrs. Lu, sat haggardly in a chair, staring blankly at the photo and whispering, Ruomian, where on earth are you? I don't believe you just disappeared like that. Lu Jihan passed by, saw Mrs. Lu's state, and said with disgust, what nonsense are you spouting here again? It's been so many years. Haven't you accepted reality yet? Hearing this, her tears fell like rain as she shouted at Lu Jihan, our daughter is not dead. I can feel that she's still alive. He turned and left, leaving Mrs. Lu crying uncontrollably in her chair. Crazy woman. The door of the Lu residence opened, and a woman let a child in. Lu Jihan said to the maid, this is the second daughter, named Lu Jiu. This is her mother, Liu. Lu Jiu's mother, Liu, stepped forward, linked her arm with his, and said in a coquettish voice, darling, I don't want to live under the same roof as that crazy woman. Lu Jihan put his arm around her waist and led her into the house. I've already arranged it. I've had someone take her away. From now on, this is your and the child's home. Tell the maids whatever you want. Liu brought her face close to his and said, thank you, darling. Wen Ruomian's mother was helped into a car by two people, still muttering, my daughter, my daughter. As soon as she left the Lu residence, Nie Yingcong's subordinate immediately came to report, Boss Nie, Miss Wen's mother has left the Lu residence. He asked calmly, where did she go? The man received a new message and reported to him, we were following her, but suddenly others started chasing, and we lost her. But I've already arranged for people to investigate. Nie Yingcong picked up a file and looked at it, immediately arranged for people to investigate the data. His subordinate received the order, understood, boss. Only Nie Yingcong was left in the office, sitting in his chair, reminiscing about the past. 1 year ago, in the living room, he sat on the sofa, holding a glass of wine, carefully watching the screen. His subordinate stood behind him and reported, boss, it seems Miss Lu wants to go home. Nie Yingcong didn't take his eyes off the screen and said sternly, she can't go back. Her father just used her insurance money to pay off his debts. If she goes home now, she'll surely die. Bring her back to me. On the other side, when Ruomian was trying to make a call, sorry, the number you have dialed does not exist. She thought sadly, can't get through again. Just then, Nie Yingcong's subordinate found her and said respectfully, Miss Lu, Boss Nie wants to see you. When Ruomian followed the man to see him, Boss Nie, you were looking for me? Nie Yingcong suddenly reached out and grabbed her by the neck, startling her. Afterward, when Ruomian immediately grabbed his hand with both of hers. Nie Yingcong watched her break free from his grasp and smiled. Not bad. Your defense and attack are both quick. She let go of his hand and asked, are you trying to test me? Nie Yingcong withdrew his hand and said, you've never let your guard down around your savior. So how could you be defenseless against someone who wants to harm you? When Ruomian exclaimed in shock, how could this be? She looked at him in shock. How could you know? This is impossible. Nie Yingcong looked at her while holding his wine glass and said calmly, if you want to protect yourself and the people you want to protect, you must become stronger. Why do you think your mother suddenly changed her phone number? She wants to protect you too. When Ruomian lowered her eyes, her expression dejected. What should I do? Nie Yingcong approached her. He pinched Wen Ruomian's chin and smiled gently. I will help you, but first, you have to listen to me. Someone kicked the door open and burst into Nie Yingcong's office. interrupting the memory. Wen Ruomian walked in furiously. She slammed her hands on the desk and questioned him. Lu Jihan announced his remarriage. How'd I not know he and my mom got divorced? Wen Ruomian pointed at the news on the newspaper and asked him what on earth is going on. Nie Yingcong said nothing. He calmly gestured for his subordinate to leave. Only then did he speak. I know you've been avoiding the information I have on your father. She clenched her fists and said, I know he used my death notice to get that insurance money. Wen Ruomian continued, that money became the turning point for his business. Later, his business grew bigger and bigger, and all of it was exchanged for my sacrifice. She raised her hand to gently wipe away a tear. Her voice choked with sobs. I actually knew everything. I just didn't dare to believe it. Nie Yingcong slowly stood up from his chair. I know this is hard to accept, but you need to face it. He approached her and said, there's one more thing. It's about your mother. Upon hearing this, Wen Ruomian immediately stopped crying. She anxiously asked Nie Yingcong, what's wrong with my mom? He told her the news he had just received. I've had people monitoring her, but recently she's gone missing. Wen Ruomian cried out in panic, what? Nie Yingcong grabbed her hand and pulled her back. Don't get agitated. I've already arranged for people to look for her. We will find her. Wen Ruomian fell silent. At night, in Beicheng, she and Shinruoshi were drinking at the bar. She spoke up, what's wrong? You've been so down since you came out of the boss's office. She replied sadly, I'm fine. Afterward, Wen Ruomian left Beicheng. As soon as she stepped out, a few drunk men surrounded and harassed her. Hey beauty, don't be in such a hurry. Have a few drinks with us. You're so pretty. You must be one of Beicheng's beauties. Wen Ruomian glanced at them coldly. Get lost. One drunkard paid no mind, stepped forward and put his arm around her shoulder. Little sister, don't be so fierce. Come on, have some fun with us. Another one behind her chimed in. Little sister, you don't have anyone with you, do you? Seeing that they wouldn't leave, she smiled coldly and said, it seems you're going to be my punching bags. Hearing this, the drunkard got excited. He moved closer to Wen Ruomian, trying to touch her. Come on, beauty, if you want me to be your trash can, I'm all for it. Just play with us for a while. Her face darkened, and she let out a light laugh. Just then, a voice came from behind. Let her go. The drunkards turned to look at the man who had appeared. Another one trying to be a hero, saving a damsel. Who do you think you are? The man was Gu Zhiping. He looked at them sternly and said, I'm her friend. You'd better get lost now. Wen Ruomian glanced coldly at Gu Zhiping, thinking, another refined-looking scoundrel trying to take advantage. He stood there calmly and said leisurely, it seems your friend has had too much to drink. I suggest you take him home. One drunkard stepped forward, wanting to hit Gu Zhiping. Looks like someone's asking for a beating. Seeing their companion make a move, the other drunkards also threw punches at him. Then I'll give you a taste of our strength. Gu Zhiping unexpectedly made a move, punching him in the stomach. Ugh. Then he continued to deal with the rest of them. Gu Zhiping retracted his hand, his expression serious. I don't want to hurt you, but don't force my hand. The drunkards helped each other up and left. Let's go. This guy is not to be messed with. He turned to her and smiled gently. You're safe now. They won't be back. Wen Ruomian smiled happily and said to Gu Zhiping, thank you for saving me. He replied, you're welcome. I would have helped anyone in that situation. As they walked side by side, she thought to herself, he hasn't asked for my number yet. Wen Ruomian glanced at Gu Zhiping, guessing in her mind, does he want to walk me home? Just then, he suddenly spoke. Do you need me to call a cab for you to go home? She forced a smile and didn't answer, but in her mind, she was sneering nonstop. Haha, I knew it. This Daanon's hero saves the damsel trick is just to pick up girls. After seeing Wen Ruomian off in a taxi, Gu Zhiping stood by the roadside and waved goodbye to her. Go on now. Don't walk and drink alone on the road so late in the future. In the car, she was still thinking about him. This guy actually didn't ask for my number. Wen Ruomian's apartment. In the bedroom, Wen Ruomian was curled up on the large bed, clutching her stomach in pain. Ugh, it hurts so much. Wen Ruomian got out of bed to look for medicine. Where are my painkillers? Her face had turned pale from the pain. Wen Ruomian quickly took the medicine. She leaned wearily against the sofa, holding a glass of water in one hand and her stomach with the other. No, I have to go to the hospital tomorrow. The next morning, at the hospital, Wen Ruomian sat alone on a chair, looking at the number in her hand. A female nurse came out and called, number 39, Wen Ruomian. She knocked on the door of the internal medicine consultation room. and a voice came from inside. Please come in. Gu Zhiping was surprised when Wen Ruomian walked in. It's you? Wen Ruomian was also surprised to see him. How, is it you? You're a doctor? Gu Zhiping stood up and smiled. Yes, I'm an internal medicine doctor here. What a coincidence. We meet again. She replied, I'm really grateful for what happened last night. After some pleasantries, he began to examine Wen Ruomian. Sit down. Were you feeling uncomfortable? She placed her hand on her stomach and said, after drinking a little last night, it's been hurting on and off. After listening to Wen Ruomian's description, Gu Zhiping said, stomach pain after drinking could be caused by excess stomach acid. Come, let me check you. He leaned over, his hand gently pressing on her stomach. Is it here? She replied, yes, it hurts here. After the examination, Gu Zhiping returned to his desk to write a prescription. I'll prescribe some medicine for you. Remember to take it on time. Try not to drink on an empty stomach in the future. Wen Ruomian replied, okay, I understand, Dr. Gu. She stood up and said with a smile, thank you for last night and today. I'm sorry to have troubled you. He handed the prescription to Wen Ruomian and said with a gentle smile, you don't have to be so polite. As a doctor, it's my duty to help patients. Besides, we can be considered friends now, can't we? Hearing Gu Zhiping's words, she was stunned. Friends? Wen Ruomian looked at the prescription in her hand and said softly, friends. I like the sound of that. He approached her and said softly, you know, your smile is very warm. This is what you're really like, but you don't usually smile much. Wen Ruomian covered her mouth and laughed, teasing Gu Zhiping. Dr. Gu, are you always such a smooth talker? He replied with a smile, only to those who are worth it. Go downstairs and get your medicine. I hope you recover soon. If you still feel unwell, you can come to me anytime. She opened the door and waved goodbye to him happily. All right, Dr. Gu, goodbye. The clinic door closed softly with a click. After Wen Ruomian left, Gu Zhiping's face immediately darkened, his expression sorrowful. Wen Ruomian, do you really not remember me? In the evening, a voice rang out in the lobby of Beicheng. Boss, all reservations for tonight are full. Wen Ruomian, sitting on a chair looking at the ledger, listened to her assistant's report. Are we still accepting reservations? She didn't look up from the ledger and replied coldly, no, but Beicheng's reputation is paramount. We must guarantee quality. Suddenly, an employee ran in anxiously. Sister Mian, the VIP rooms are all full tonight but Boss Chen's room. He specifically mentioned wanting some special arrangements. Wen Ruomian smiled slightly after hearing this, then began to make arrangements. I understand. Go prepare some of his favorite wine and arrange for a small band to play his favorite songs live. Remember, the details are everything. A hand held a wine glass, swirling it gently. The man holding the wine glass was about to drink when he suddenly stopped and looked forward. As soon as he saw her walk in, he stood up to greet her. Boss Wen, every time I come to Beicheng, I experience a new surprise. The wine was poured into a new glass, and when Ruomian raised her glass and smiled happily, Boss Chun, you're too kind. Let me toast you. Boss Chun and she began to chat happily, and when Ruomian raised her glass and took a small sip. Late at night, after entertaining Boss Chun, she was in her office with a solemn expression, lost in thought. When Ruomian sat wearily in her chair and reached out to rub her forehead. When Ruomian pressed a button to call her assistant, Lingling, give me a cup of coffee. The person who walked in was Nie Yingcong. He crossed his arms, leaned against the door looking at her, and said, I heard you had a stomachache when you came back yesterday, and you're still drinking coffee? Nie Yingcong walked over and placed a bottle of water on her desk. When Ruomian picked up the water bottle and took a sip, saying in a cold tone, it's just a minor ailment. How could I dare trouble boss Nien to worry? He looked through the glass at the bustling Beicheng downstairs. When Ruomian, you've always been outstanding. Under your management, Beicheng has done very well these past few years. She screwed the cap back on the water bottle, closed her eyes lightly, and said, of course, I can't let you misjudge me. There was a knock on the door, and a voice called out, Sister Mian, a guest is causing trouble in the lobby. She replied calmly, tell security to drag them out. Lingling hesitated, saying awkwardly, it's a girl. She's crying and making a scene, and she's trying to take off her clothes. The security guards don't dare to get close. When Ruomian sighed and said, I'll go take a look. In the lobby downstairs, a girl was shouting angrily, why did he leave me? When she arrived, she saw the girl holding a wine bottle in one hand and throwing her coat aside with the other. What did I do wrong? When Ruomian stood there calmly and said, ma'am, please calm down. You're affecting our business. The drunk girl ignored her words completely and rushed forward, trying to smash the wine bottle on Wen Ruomian. I don't need you to manage me. She immediately grabbed her hand, and the wine from the bottle spilled out. Wen Ruomian looked at her coldly. I warned you. If you keep acting crazy, I won't be polite. At this moment, her friend also arrived. The friend supported the drunk girl and said with an embarrassed smile, I'm sorry, Sister Mian. She's not in her right mind. Please don't be angry. We'll take her away immediately. The problem was solved, and the people around began to discuss her. Is that the manager of Beicheng? She has a really nice figure from the back. Someone walked over and draped a coat over Wen Ruomian. She turned her head and saw Nie Yingcong. He looked at her and asked, Are you okay? Wen Ruomian took his coat and replied, Just got wet. Nie Yingcong turned to Ling Ling and said, In the future, let the assistants handle such minor matters. If the assistants can't handle it, then they don't need to work here. She was too stunned to speak. After warning Wen Ruomian's assistant, he carried her away in his arms in full view of everyone. Someone recognized Nie Yingcong and exclaimed in surprise, Wow, isn't that the young master of the Nien family? Why is he here? The noisy Beicheng instantly fell silent, and everyone watched as he calmly carried her upstairs. The lounge. Wen Ruomian sat on the sofa and looked at him hesitantly. Boss Nien, I'm wet you. Nie Yingcong turned around and threw a towel at her. Dry yourself off. The towel hit her directly in the face, causing her to fall backward. Da-da. Wen Ruomian picked up the towel, glanced at him, and said angrily, No wonder the rumors outside say your sexual orientation is abnormal. I'm this beautiful, and you're not even interested. Hearing this, Nie Yingcong turned his head and replied, The rumors outside? Weren't you the one who spread them? Wen Ruomian's voice sounded, Boss Nien, if you're not interested in women. The two sat on the sofa, chatting with teacups in hand. Then why are you so good to me? Because. He looked directly into her eyes, his expression serious. You're worth it. She chuckled lightly. I thought it was because I could make money. Wen Ruomian placed the teacup on the table and said, You gave me a second life, and you're always by my side. She moved closer to Nie Yingcong. I'm really grateful. He only said, Wen Ruomian, I've said it before, just be yourself. You don't have to thank me. Wen Ruomian placed her hand on Nie Yingcong's. No, you don't know what you mean to me. She turned and pushed him down onto the chair. Wen Ruomian looked at Nie Yingcong intently and said, You are my light in the darkness. In the lounge, when Ruomian's hands were on the chair, her body pressed close to Nie Yingcong. The two faced each other, the atmosphere extremely ambiguous. He reached out and gently pushed her shoulder. Nie Yingcong stood up, turned his face to avoid Wen Ruomian's gaze, and said, Wen Ruomian, I can't. She clenched her fists and asked somewhat harshly, Why? Am I nothing to you? He stood against the light, his voice cold and distant. Jihan, I have to tell you, I've always seen you as a sister. The expression on Wen Ruomian's face gradually froze, her eyes filled with confusion. Nie Yingcong remained cold and unchanged. I save you only because you're around the same age as my sister. It was purely out of a brotherly sentiment, nothing more. She laughed mockingly. A sister, so that's how it is. When Ruomian approached him step by step, her hand on her chest, I see. I thought I was important, but it was just my misunderstanding. Nie Yingcong turned his head at this moment and forced a smile. You're a good girl. You deserve to be loved by a better person. After he finished speaking, he turned and left. The sound of the door closing was cold, causing the last bit of hope in Wen Ruomian's heart to completely shatter. Nie Yingcong walked down the stairs with heavy steps. He closed his eyes and said softly to himself, No, Wen Ruomian, you are important. Nie Yingcong whispered, But I can't let you get involved in my world. He sat in his study, the dim moonlight shining on him. Nie Yingcong recalled his past. At that time, he was kneeling on the tiled floor in front of the main shareholders and his family. Nie Yingcong looked at his son, who was still kneeling on the ground, with a stern gaze. He asked, Yingcong, are you really going to give up the position of heir? Do you know what that means? Nie Yingcong stiffly raised his head and answered clearly, I know, Dad, but I've already made my choice. Nie Yingcong was truly angered by his stubbornness. He fell back into his chair and shouted furiously, So you choose to go to your death? Nie Yingcong's subordinate, Uncle Chun, hurried over, helped him up, and persuaded, Boss, don't force the young master anymore. Uncle Chen glanced at him and coaxed him gently. He's just not thinking clearly for a moment. I watched him grow up. Let me go talk to him. The two left the meeting room. Nie Yingcong still said firmly, Uncle Chun, I can't become one of them. I have to leave for myself and for the future. Uncle Chen didn't force him. He pointed in another direction and said, since you've decided, don't look back. Go quickly. Nie Yingcong drove away. The mountain road was narrow and dark, and a white car drove alone on that road. In Beicheng, he stood in front of the mirror looking at himself, adjusting his tie, thinking, I can finally start over. A subordinate came in from outside with a document. Young Master Nian, this is Lu Zai's payment record. We've investigated, but we haven't found any clues about Miss Wen's mother. After hearing the report, Nie Yingcong ordered, send more people and continue the investigation. In Beicheng, people were dancing happily. Lu Zai led Boss Chun into a reserved room and said generously, Boss Chun, tonight, we're not leaving until we're drunk. Boss Chun also replied to him, since Boss Lu is treating, we'll naturally have a good time. Boss Chun casually pulled over a waitress. He said happily, yo, beautiful. His grimy hands gradually fell to the girl's waist. Boss Chun invited her, have a drink with me. The waitress felt his disrespectful touch and was secretly uneasy. She backed away in resistance and shouted in panic, sir, please have some self-respect. Boss Chun still grabbed the waitress's hand and said rudely, get it straight, I'm doing you a favor by touching you. He tore her clothes without any scruples. The waitress was stunned by his sudden action and could only cry out with a flushed face, ah. Boss Chun forcefully pushed her onto the leather chair, and the waitress closed her eyes in pain. Boss Chun pulled at his belt and sneered with a wicked look, working here, why act all pure? Suddenly, the door was kicked open, and a pair of black high heels walked in. Before the people inside could react, the person said, I'm the manager here. Wen Ruomian appeared in a formal suit. She asked coldly, may I ask if there's anything I can help you with? Lu Zai recognized her clearly. He exclaimed inwardly, Jihan. Boss Chun was drunk, and he said even more wildly, who the hell are you? We're having fun. Do you want to join us? Wen Ruomian took off her coat, draped it over the waitress, and put on a businesslike smile. She said, we at Beicheng welcome our distinguished guests, but we also hope you can respect our employees. Boss Chin still approached unscrupulously. He insulted her. Respect? What respect is there to talk about when you work in a place like this? Lu Zai was still lost in his own suspicion. He stammered, this is impossible. Isn't she already dead? She made a gesture to see them out and turned her face away coldly. Then we don't need your respect here. Drag him out. Lu Zai, who had been silent, now spoke up. You're the manager here? You look quite young for your age. How long have you been at Beicheng? Wen Ruomian looked at him warily. Boss Lu, what does this have to do with you harassing our employee? Lu Zai put on the air of an elder, but his words couldn't hide his malice. I'm just curious how someone as young and promising as you could become the manager here at such a young age. Boss Chin sat down now and glanced at her sarcastically. I heard the manager here is Boss Nian's lover. Lu Zai also chimed in, lover? No guande. He approached Wen Ruomian and probed. If Jihan were still alive, she'd be about your age. She remained calm, stood up straight, and replied, Boss Lu, I don't know what you're talking about. Wen Ruomian firmly responded to the unreasonable insults from the two men in front of her. But no matter who I look like, it won't change the fact that you're being thrown out today. The atmosphere instantly became unprecedentedly tense as the two stared at each other, trying to find a flaw in the other. Security guards came in from outside and grabbed Boss Chun. Lu Zai still smiled shamelessly. Manager one, this is my guest. Boss Chun shouted loudly, let go of me. But she remained composed, as if nothing had happened. Yes, Wen Ruomian said seriously, but we have our rules at Beicheng, and all guests must abide by them. Please leave here immediately with your friend. Lu Zai didn't notice her increasingly grim expression and continued to boast, you're running a business. This city has more than one entertainment venue. It's not worth offending us over a mere employee. Wen Ruomian no longer showed any courtesy and directly drove them out, emphasizing word by word, this lady intends to offend you. Now, get out. Lu Zai lost face. His gaze shifted to her, and he warned, Wen Ruomian, you just wait. The security guards followed her orders and took him away. Go. Wen Ruomian watched Lu Zai's retreating back. She spat out word by word in pain, although I knew I would meet him sooner or later. Wen Ruomian murmured softly, I was still not ready. Boss Chen couldn't stand the humiliation and yelled as he left. Let's go. We'll go somewhere else. The girls here are no fun. Lu Zhe was still deep in thought. That can't be Jihan. Jihan is already, although the face is a bit similar, the temperament is completely different. When Ruomian returned to her apartment and soaked in the bathtub, her mind feeling blank. Suddenly, a figure pushed the door open from outside and reminded her, watch your bath time, don't soak until you pass out. When Ruomian got out of the bathtub, picked up her bathrobe and towel, and tied her bathrobe, while wiping the remaining water from her hair, she asked, why are you here so late? Aren't you going to H City for business tomorrow? The person didn't answer, but asked another question instead. I heard you ran into Lu Zhe today. Nie Yingcong adjusted his tie and glanced over. Why are you in such a hurry? We haven't found your mother yet. When Ruomian suddenly shouted like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, wouldn't it be too easy to just kill him? She explained, Lu Zhe is decent on the surface, but he's actually filthy and his methods are extremely disgusting. He's been at Beiqing more than once or twice. I was bound to run into him at Beiqing sooner or later. When Ruomian averted her gaze, her face turning ugly, and her voice became softer, but after all these years, I'm still not ready. Nie Yingcong asked patiently, are you scared? She nodded, admitting her feelings, afraid that the person in front of her would change the plan. When Ruomian looked up and said firmly, but don't worry, I won't implicate you, because I don't want to die yet, definitely not a second time. Nie Yingcong didn't mention the matter again, and reached out to pick up the hairdryer. Right. You plug in the hairdryer, and change the subject, let's not talk about this. To keep you from catching a cold, I'll dry your hair. She retorted, are you sure? The great boss of Beiqing can also be a manual laborer. Nie Yingcong just smirked, stopped dawdling, and turned around. The sound of the hairdryer hummed evenly, the warm air passing through every strand of Wen Ruomian's hair. Nie Yingcong looked at her expression and comforted her. I know you must have been under a lot of pressure facing Lu Zhe today. He advised, but revenge can't be rushed. I don't want you to take risks without being prepared. When Ruomian lowered her eyes, a flash of disgust in them. It's not that I'm not prepared. I knew I would see him again sooner or later. His hand rested on her shoulder. Xiao Mian. Nie Yingcong turned Wen Ruomian around and said affirmatively, I want to tell you, no matter what happens, I will help you. She was surprised, but still obediently confessed her feelings. But I can't just rely on you. I have to face it myself. Slender fingers gently touched Wen Ruomian's red lips, lightly lifting her chin. Nie Yingcong looked at her, his eyes full of deep affection. I've said it before, you don't have to bear everything alone. When Ruomian avoided his gaze, Nie Yingcong, you make it hard for me not to fall for you. She turned away uncomfortably and reminded him, Nie Yingcong, if you won't accept me, don't flirt with me. When Ruomian pushed Nie Yingcong's hand away and said, go back. Don't you have to go to H City for work tomorrow? Seeing her cold attitude, he felt a pang of panic in his heart. Xiao Mian, I. When Ruomian turned her head, pretending not to hear, Nie Yingcong could only sigh in his heart. At Taipei Plaza, Lu Jiao, Wen Ruomian's half-sister, Lu Jiao snobbishly handed her card to the sales clerk. I want this bag. Wrap it up for me. The clerk took the card and said professionally, all right, ma'am, please wait a moment. The clerk swiped the card for payment, then asked with a businesslike smile, ma'am, there seems to be a problem with your credit card. Do you have another payment method? Lu Jiao was stunned after hearing this. She shouted, that's impossible. Try it again for me. The clerk still insisted on swiping it again, but the result was not optimistic. She asked, it still doesn't work after swiping again. Do you have another card? Lu Jiao got angry and pointed directly at the clerk's face, scolding, you idiot, you can't even swipe a card properly. Get your manager out here. The store manager heard the commotion and hurried over to check. Hello, is there a problem? Seeing the manager, Lu Jiao's voice grew louder. This card has never had a problem. Check it for me. The manager also tried a few more times very professionally, then announced, I'm very sorry, ma'am. The system shows that your card has been maxed out. Lu Jiao stopped arguing and walked outside to make a call. On Lu Zhe's end, he was working and heard the phone ring. Lu Zhe picked up the phone and asked impatiently, Joe, what is it now? Lu Jiao hurriedly complained, Dad, why is my credit card limit locked? I'm at the mall. Do you know how embarrassed I am? But to her surprise, he just said coldly, your allowance is already more than enough, and you still max out your credit card every month. If you continue to be so extravagant, don't blame me for being harsh. Lu Jiao shouted angrily, you don't love me. You only care about money. Lu Zhe was no pushover either. He replied firmly, if you keep this up, I'll kick you out of the house. That way you can go earn your own money. The call was hung up, and she was completely stunned by her father's words. Just as Lu Jiao was fuming, a voice suddenly interjected, "Excuse me, sorry to bother you." Wen Ruomian walked up and asked in a seemingly friendly manner, "Are you a fashion blogger? Your outfit is so stylish." Flattered, Lu Jiao was like a peacock spreading its tail. She stroked her hair, trying to show off her figure, and responded to the compliment, "Oh, thank you. I do put a lot of thought into it." When Ruomian spoke again, "Actually, I have a favor to ask." Lu Jiao quickly fell into the trap. What request? She then feigned vulnerability and made her request. "I have a very important party to attend tonight, but I don't know as much about fashion as you do. I was wondering if you could help me pick out an outfit and some jewelry that would suit me." Lu Jiao said smugly, "Of course. I'd be happy to help." She turned around and began to focus on picking out clothes for Wen Ruomian. Lu Jiao took a red dress from the rack, held it up against her, and said, "This dress really suits your temperament, and this color will complement your skin tone." Wen Ruomian looked at the girl with sparkling eyes before her and said naturally, "You have great taste. I like this style. I'll go try it on." The curtain of the fitting room was pulled open, and Lu Jiao looked over proudly. "See, I knew you'd look great in this dress." Wen Ruomian, in a wine-red dress that clung to her body, walked out with a noble air. She said, "It's really perfect. You're amazing." Lu Jiao turned to pick out jewelry. She picked up an expensive diamond necklace. She brought it over for her to try on, persuading, "Paired with this necklace and earrings, it will make you stand out even more at the party." Wen Ruomian let her put the necklace on for her, then looked in the mirror and exclaimed with excitement, "It's so beautiful. Miss Lu, you're truly my fashion savior. How can I ever thank you?" Wen Ruomian seemed to remember something and exclaimed, "That's right." She picked up the bag Lu Jiao had put down earlier and took it to the counter. "You wanted to buy this bag just now, right? To thank you, I can give this bag to you." She reminded her this bag isn't cheap. Wen Ruomian flipped over the price tag under the bag to take a look, then said generously, "It's not that much to me." Lu Jiao scratched her ear, not expecting this person to actually pay for her. She exclaimed inwardly, "Wow, where did this rich big sister come from?" She took the bag and turned to her, "I really think this bag is perfect for a girl with your aesthetic and taste." Wen Ruomian said softly, "I hope you'll accept this small gift. I hope it brings you a good mood." She said to the clerk, "Ring up both mine and hers together." The clerk quickly agreed, "Yes, yes." Lu Jiao seemed to really like this girl and suggested, "Thank you. Let's add each other on WeChat. You can find me if you need help in this area in the future." Wen Ruomian also happily agreed, "Okay." She brought up the chat interface and introduced herself friendly. "Nice to meet you. My name is Lu Jiao." She replied, "It's a pleasure, Miss Lu." After Wen Ruomian changed out of the dress, the two left the store together. Lu Jiao suggested, "To thank you for giving me such an expensive gift, how about I treat you to coffee?" She agreed, "Sure, I'm tired from walking too." At Kaisian coffee shop, Wen Ruomian brought up a topic while drinking her coffee. "Do you come to this mall often? We can go shopping together in the future." She replied, "Sure." At this point, she voiced the doubt in her heart, feigning to probe, "I saw you on the phone just now. You didn't seem very happy. Did you run into some trouble?" Lu Jiao poked at her soda irritably and replied sullenly, "It's all because of my trashy dad. He complained I spent too much money and locked my card." Wen Ruomian seemed to empathize and got angry for her. "Looking at how you dress, your family must be well off. You must be a young lady from some family. You know, family businesses always have expectations for sons, but daughters are often neglected." Lu Jiao, as if she had found a kindred spirit, quickly told her, "Exactly. My dad doesn't care about me at all. I feel like I have no presence in my dad's eyes." Suddenly, she remembered something and asked, "By the way, you're so rich. Are you also a young lady from some family?" She didn't answer immediately, just took a sip of coffee and replied faintly, "I rarely go home now. My dad isn't very good to me, so I became independent on my own." Lu Jiao said sympathetically, "Every family has its own problems." Wen Ruomian then put on a mysterious act and told her in a low voice, "Do you know why I don't contact my family? Because they want to turn me into a pawn for a business marriage." She was stunned by her words and said no more. Lu Jiao stirred her soda, her mind already racing with speculation based on her father's character. Most of the Lu family's assets and company would surely be left to her brother, Lu Tianlin. When that happened, she would definitely be used as a tool, just like Sister Wen. A pitch-black card was placed in front of her, and when Ruomian's voice sounded, inviting, "Miss Lu, our bar is having an event next month called Blindfolded Revelry. You could come and have some fun, and give me some suggestions." On the way, Lu Jiao looked at the business card and quickly recognized it. Wow. Wow, Xiancheng. Isn't this the most high-end club in our area? Suddenly, the phone rang, and she picked it up. When Ruomian answered the phone, it was unknown what was said on the other end, but her face turned extremely ugly. When Ruomian asked loudly, "What did you say?" 3 hours later, several cars were driving one after another on a dark mountain road. The car stopped in front of a large iron gate. Bob Manor. Nie Yingcong got out of the car, closed the door, and ordered, "You guys wait for me here. I'll go in alone." The bodyguards lined up and replied, "Yes, Boss Nien." 2 people came out of the manor and led the way for him. Upon entering the main hall, they automatically split to the sides. They made a welcoming gesture. A man received Nie Yingcong and addressed him very respectfully, Boss Nien. He was the owner of the manor, Bob Ray. Bob Ray stood up and said proudly, "Welcome to Bob Manor." A pot of pre-brewed tea was placed on the table, and Bob Ray sat opposite him. Nie Yingcong spoke first. "Boss Bob, I'm here for the shipment. I hope we can get straight to the point." He replied generously, "Of course. I very much admire Boss Nien's directness." Bob Ray took a sip of tea, his eyes full of calculation. "But before that, I want to know, how do you plan to use this shipment? Those things are contraband in your country." He replied without hesitation, "With a big place like my Xiancheng, there will naturally be demand. As for how it's used, I don't need to tell you, do I?" He then showed his true colors. "In our line of work, trust is a luxury. So, Boss Nien, don't blame me for asking a few more questions." Nie Yingcong also replied, "I came in alone. Isn't that enough sincerity?" Bob Ray was amused by his words and laughed out loud. "Ha!" He was very satisfied with this answer and quickly extended his hand to lead the way. "Then I won't waste any more words. Boss Nien, please go inspect the goods." He stood up and followed Bob Ray. A miniature camera was already pinned to the button of his shirt. Bob Ray led him straight to the guarded warehouse nearby, introducing, "Boss Nie, this is our best merchandise here. Feel free to look." Nie Yingcong didn't stand on ceremony. He stepped forward, picked up a rifle, and began to inspect the goods. Bob's merchandise was indeed new technology, and Bob Ray was very proud of the quality, saying, "You should know, we never compromise on quality." His gaze fell on him, then swept across the armory. Yingcong put down the gun and said, "No problem, I can arrange the transfer right now." Bob Ray was very satisfied with the deal. Boss Nie is indeed straightforward. Just as he was about to say a few more words, suddenly his phone rang. Bob Ray's pupils contracted. A text message on his phone screen sent a chill down his spine. "The buyer is an undercover agent." Bob Ray ordered, "Seize him." The bodyguards immediately lunged forward. Yingcong pretended not to understand what was happening and asked, "What is the meaning of this? Didn't I say I'd transfer the money right away?" A gun was quickly aimed at his temple. He said mercilessly, "Boss Nie, you're too naive. Did you really think I would do business with someone like you?" Nie Yingcong still tried to argue. "Is there some misunderstanding between us?" Bob Ray didn't explain further, instead ordering, "Lock him up." "Yes, sir." The bodyguards rushed over. With no way to retreat, he could only fight back, snatching a long rod from one of them and then knocking him down with his elbow. The others quickly rushed over, and Nie Yingcong fought back with all his might. He turned and ran, with the men behind him still in hot pursuit. Suddenly, a bullet flew towards Nie Yingcong's leg, causing him to lose his balance. Bob Ray pointed his gun at Yingcong. "Boss Nie, did you really think I didn't know your true purpose?" He still feigned ignorance. "I don't know what you're talking about." He tilted his head and said coldly, "Do you think you can fool me? I knew from the beginning you weren't here to do business sincerely." Yingcong turned his head slightly, stating with certainty, "I believe there must be some misunderstanding between us." Bob Ray still didn't believe him, and he gave up, allowing himself to be captured. He shouted, "Enough nonsense. Tie him up quickly. He's still useful. I want to see who exactly is trying to go against me." Yingcong was taken to a small well, his hands tied behind his back. Bob Ray crossed his arms and commanded coldly, "Throw him in. Let him reflect slowly." A few seconds later, the bodyguards quickly pushed him into the well. The sound of a heavy object hitting the water rang out clearly. Yingcong struggled to surface from the water, gasping for every bit of thin air. He looked around. It was pitch black in the well, and there were many others floating like him, some of whom had already lost their lives. Yingcong thought to himself that this seemed to be where they imprisoned and punished people. He looked up at the mouth of the well, which towered high above. For the first time, Yingcong felt a wave of helplessness. "I can't die here. I have to find a way out." Seeing the people in the courtyard all running in one direction, Chun Feng, who was hiding nearby, whispered, "This is bad. Something's happened. Retreat." He got into the car and called Wen Ruomian to inform her, "Sister Mian, we're in trouble. Hearing the news, she asked anxiously what happened. The person on the other end of the line explained the situation to her. Boss Nie was captured by the people at the estate. We wanted to rescue him, but the other side has too many people. We can't fight them directly. Wen Ruomian stood up, startling Ruoshi. She placed a card on the table and turned her back. I'm sorry, I have something urgent to attend to. This is the list of all our club's activities for next month. Contact me when you want to come. She picked up the card and looked at it, thinking to herself, so many activities, interesting. At H City Airport, Chun Feng helped Wen Ruomian with her luggage, saying anxiously, Sister Mian, you're finally here. She asked, what's the situation? Any new information on Nie Yingcong? He replied, after Boss Nie went in, he suddenly disappeared. I arranged for people to go in disguised as maintenance workers, but we found no trace of him. However, we did get a map of the estate, and we can enter through a blind spot in the camera coverage. Wen Ruomian ordered sternly, good, we need to split into 2 teams. One team will be responsible for distracting the guards, and the other will rescue Nie Yingcong. The 2 discussed their strategy as they walked. Wen Ruomian said, time is tight. We must have everything ready before dark. The 2 finally arrived at Bob's estate. Along the outer wall, everyone moved cautiously. She ordered, remember, our goal is to enter the estate quietly without alerting anyone. Chun Feng, following closely behind, also replied, we understand. Our people have taken control of the camera system. We can go in now. Wen Ruomian was the first to climb over the wall, and her subordinates below followed. She spoke in her earpiece, all teams be on alert. Report any situation immediately. A guard looked down from a tall building. Wen Ruomian, holding her gun, groped her way deeper inside. After a round of searching, the subordinates all shook their heads, reporting that they hadn't found Boss Nie, and Team B had found nothing either. At the same time, the guards outside the estate saw dozens of cars driving in a single file and quickly reported to her, report, Bob Ray is on his way back to the estate, expected to arrive in 10 minutes. Hearing this, Chun Feng whispered, this is bad. Bob Ray is coming back. We must leave immediately. Speed up the search. There's not much time left. Let's check the basement again. The voice in the earpiece sounded again. Bob Ray's car has entered the camera's range, arriving in 5 minutes. He grabbed Wen Ruomian's wrist and shouted, President Wen. Chun Feng's gaze was firm as he persuaded her. We've searched everywhere and still haven't found Boss Nie. We have to leave right now. Wen Ruomian didn't answer him immediately. After a long silence, she spoke. Impossible. He must be here. I can't leave without finding Nie Yingcong. Bob Ray had already returned. He got out of the car and stood at the entrance of the estate. Bob Ray looked up at the estate with suspicion, realizing something was wrong. Chun Feng persuaded her, President Wen, we're out of time. We really can't search anymore. Wen Ruomian remained silent, clearly unable to accept this fact. Suddenly, she remembered something. Wait, Nie Yingcong's phone. He was also surprised. What? Isn't Boss Nie's phone turned off? Wen Ruomian explained, he once installed a locator in my phone that can emit a signal even when it's off, and I remember my phone has a reverse tracking function. She handed her phone to Chun Feng. See if this function can be used. He said very confidently, yes, President Wen, no problem. After operating it for a moment, Chun Feng exclaimed, I've found Boss Nie's location. Wen Ruomian exclaimed, that's great. Over here, the 2 said in unison, let's go. Following the device's guidance, he, and another subordinate headed in that direction. Chun Feng stopped in front of the well and said, President Wen, we're here. Boss Nie must be inside. Wen Ruomian tied a rope around her waist and requested, you guys wait up here. If I run into any trouble, pull me up immediately. He replied, okay, President Wen, be careful. She called out softly, Nie Yingcong. The flashlight shone on where Nie Yingcong was standing. He was already in a semi-conscious state. Wen Ruomian shouted with pleasant surprise, Nie Yingcong. The rope reached Yingcong's side as she tried her best to pull him closer to her, insisting, I'm here to save you. Yingcong seemed to have regained some consciousness, and he exclaimed, ugh. Nie Yingcong groggily opened his eyes and called out softly, Wen Ruomian. She replied, it's me. Another rope was lowered into the well. Floating in the water, Wen Ruomian tied the rope around him and caressed his pale face. She whispered, Nie Yingcong, I need you to stay awake. We have to get out of this place together. Chun Feng shone a light from above and announced, President Wen, we're pulling you both up now. Wen Ruomian struggled to support Nie Yingcong while leaning her back against the well wall to pull herself up. After a while, the two were finally pulled out of the well. Chun Feng shouted happily, Boss Nie, President Wen, thank goodness. Wen Ruomian stood at the mouth of the well and ordered, We can't stay here long. Let's go. The subordinates said in unison, Okay. Bob Ray walked into the estate, which was empty. He asked, Where are the people? Where are the guards? Sensing a threat, Bob Ray frowned. He felt the world turn upside down as a guard lay sprawled on the ground. Realizing something was wrong, Bob Ray's frown deepened. He ordered loudly, Lock down the estate immediately. Don't let anyone leave. The three of them hid behind a patch of bushes. Yingqing said weakly, Chun Feng, you take Wen Ruomian and go first. Don't worry about me. Wen Ruomian was not to be outdone. Since I'm here, I won't leave you behind. Chun Feng voiced his speculation. Bob Ray is back. We can't leave the way we came. She crossed her arms. Then there's no other way out. He touched his chin. This estate has a back door, but we can't get to it now, either. Wen Ruomian noticed something and spoke up. Chun Feng, give me the lighter. Let's keep Bob Ray's men busy with a fire, and we'll take the opportunity to leave. Chun Feng said with slight opposition, But President Wen, this is very dangerous. What if the fire gets out of control? Her face suddenly turned serious. We have to take a risk. This is our only chance. The sound of a flint striking. The fire was lit, and thick smoke began to rise. Realizing something was wrong, Bob Ray exclaimed, What's going on over there? Why is there smoke? Go check it out. The guard received the order. Yes, sir. They returned to report, Mr. Bob Ray. The West Garden is on fire. He ordered angrily, Go put out the fire quickly. My merchandise is still in there. Wen Ruomian supported Nie Yingcong as they limped out, encouraging him, Hang in there. Chun Feng had already prepared the car, and he guided Boss Nie, get in the car quickly. The three of them quickly got into the car and left. After driving for a long time, she finally breathed a sigh of relief, saying, We're finally safe. Nie Yingcong chided, You were too reckless. Wen Ruomian said angrily, So it's okay for you to save me, but not for me to save you. He was rendered speechless by her scolding and could only remain silent. After coming out of the well, a subordinate reported, Sir, there's no one down there anymore. Bob Ray gritted his teeth, hissing through them. It was that Chinese rescue team, as expected. Setting a fire on the surface was actually a diversion to save someone. Bob Ray turned and ordered his men, Go after them. Don't let them get away. His men quickly replied, Yes, sir. Chun Feng looked in the rearview mirror and announced, They're catching up. We had to find a way to shake them. Wen Ruomian observed the terrain and suggested, There's a sharp turn ahead. We can try there. He replied, Okay. Then he stepped on the gas, and Chun Feng shouted, Hold on tight. The two cars were in hot pursuit on the winding mountain road. Chun Feng glanced at the rearview mirror, gritted his teeth, and snorted coldly, then yanked the steering wheel to make the turn. The mountain road had many curves, and the two pursuing cars couldn't turn the steering wheel in time, crashing into the guardrail and falling into the valley. The three of them also experienced a slight jolt. Worried about Wen Ruomian, Yingqing shielded her with his body, his whole body shaking from the jolt of the turn. Already injured, he was now hit by a strong impact, causing Nie Yingqing's forehead to bleed. Wen Ruomian looked at the liquid flowing down his cheek and shouted in panic, Nie Yingcong. The two pursuing cars had been shaken off, struggling to climb up from the edge of the valley. The situation on her side was not much better. Yingqing had passed out, and no matter how she called him, he didn't wake up. Wen Ruomian supported him, calling out, Nie Yingcong, wake up. At Bob's estate, a subordinate, after answering a call, hurriedly reported the news to Bob Ray that they didn't catch them, and we lost a few brothers. Hearing the report, he shouted angrily, They also burned my merchandise. I won't let them get away with this. In the emergency room, Wen Ruomian helped the doctors and nurses push the stretcher with the unconscious Nie Yingcong on it, her voice hoarse, Nie Yingcong, please hang in there. The nurse pushed the patient into the emergency room and turned to remind her, Family members, please wait outside. Wen Ruomian, with tears in her eyes, said in a pleading tone, Please, you must save him. Chun Feng sat with her on the waiting bench outside, watching Wen Ruomian sob in her hands. He comforted her. Sister Mian, Boss Nie will be fine. A nurse attached the monitoring equipment to his chest, and the beeping of the monitor sounded at the same time. She hurried out to report, "Doctor, his blood pressure is dropping." The doctor who had just arrived immediately ordered, "Prepare adrenaline, quickly." The doctor and nurse in charge replied, "Yes, sir." The nurse ran outside and asked, "Who is Nie Yingcong's family?" Hearing the call, Wen Ruomian shot up and quickly replied, "It's me, what's wrong, doctor?" She briefly and seriously explained his condition. Mr. Nie's condition is very critical. He has lost too much blood and needs immediate surgery. She almost broke down, but still resolutely patted her chest and said, "What blood type does he need? I can donate blood." The nurse handed Wen Ruomian a piece of paper and instructed, "We will handle that. This is the surgical consent form. We need a family member's signature so we can proceed with the surgery immediately." She replied, "I'll sign it." She asked further, "Excuse me, are you the patient's wife?" Wen Ruomian was a bit flustered, but still replied, "No, I'm his friend." The nurse took back the registration form, frowning. "We need a signature from a direct relative. A friend is not acceptable. It must be a legally recognized family relationship." She hesitated, but Wen Ruomian clenched her hands, trying to explain, "I'm the closest person to him. His parents are not here, and he has no direct relatives in the city." She still refused firmly. "I'm sorry, these are the rules." Seeing that she couldn't change the situation, she could only take a deep breath and, after a moment of thought, made a decision. Wen Ruomian argued, "Rules are rigid, but people are flexible. As soon as he wakes up, I'll marry him immediately. Will that work?" The nurse was stunned speechless by her words. Waiting in the hallway, Wen Ruomian could only cover her face in despair and pray, "Nie Yingcong, you have to pull through." She sincerely closed her eyes, recalling the beautiful memories between them when Yingcong taught Wen Ruomian martial arts, or the time she fell asleep at her desk, and he gently covered her with a thin blanket. A sincere tear escaped from her tightly closed eyes. Wen Ruomian pleaded, "You can't let anything happen to you." She was almost going crazy with worry, asking anxiously, "Why haven't they come out yet? How is he?" Although Chun Feng was also worried, he tried to comfort Wen Ruomian, "Sister Mian, the doctors will do their best. Boss Nie will be fine." She covered her mouth and muttered to herself, "Yes, he will definitely be fine." The light in the operating room suddenly went out, and a doctor's voice came from inside, Nie Yingcong's family. Wen Ruomian immediately stood up. "That's me. How is he?" The doctor took off his gloves and announced, "The surgery was very successful, but he needs to be observed in the intensive care unit for a while. You can visit him now, but please be quiet." She said happily, "Okay, thank you, doctor." 2 days later, in the intensive care unit, Yingcong lay on the bed, surrounded by wires connected to equipment that measured his vital signs. Wen Ruomian pressed against the glass door, gazing intently inside. Chun Feng couldn't help but persuade her, "Sister Mian, you haven't slept for 2 days. Your body won't be able to take it if you go on like this." She replied stubbornly, "I have to wait here for him to wake up." He reminded her seriously, "The doctor also said that Boss Nie will wake up soon. If you're so haggard, Boss Nie will be even more upset when he sees you." Wen Ruomian was still reluctant and continued to watch for a while, hesitating. But Chun Feng was helpless. "I promise you, I will be here the whole time. You go home, take a shower, rest for a few hours, and if anything happens, I'll notify you immediately." She finally agreed reluctantly. "All right, I'll stay at a nearby hotel. I'll be back soon." Just as Wen Ruomian finished her shower, the phone rang. She quickly answered it, and when Ruomian asked in a panic, "Chun Feng, what's wrong?" Her brows furrowed tightly. The person on the other end of the line urged, "Sister Mian, come quickly. Boss Nie's condition is not good." When Ruomian rushed over in a panic, what happened? Chun Feng was also flustered, frowning. "I'm not sure about the specifics either. Boss Nie suddenly developed a fever for some reason." She pressed her face against the glass to look inside, where a doctor was conducting an examination. He said, "The doctor is treating Boss Nie." When Ruomian called his name in despair, Nie Yingcong, he opened his eyes wide, clearly in great pain. Seeing Yingcong sweating profusely and his mouth moving incoherently, when Ruomian's heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, and she called out in pain, Nie Yingcong. The doctor came out and announced, "We just received the lab report. Mr. Nie has been diagnosed with a post-operative Acinetobacter baumannii infection." She raised her voice in worry. "What is that? Is it serious?" Wen Ruomian listened with a panicked expression as the doctor said, "This is a very strong multi-drug resistant bacterium. The current antibiotic treatment is not effective for Mr. Nie. We must take other measures immediately or the situation will be very dangerous." She said with difficulty, word by word, pleading earnestly, "Doctor, please, you must save him." He patted Wen Ruomian's shoulder and comforted her. "Don't worry, we will do our best." She asked awkwardly, "Doctor, can I go in to see him?" The doctor thought for a moment, then went in with her. "You can, but only for 10 minutes. Seeing the man who had once sheltered her from the wind and rain, now lying motionless, Wen Ruomian was stunned, and she caressed his hand. Wen Ruomian held Yingcong's hand and poured out her heart. "Nie Yingcong, do you know how scared I was when Qin Feng said you were missing? I searched for you desperately, and finally found you dying at the bottom of the well." He was still sleeping as soundly as the day he was rescued, which caused her great pain. Although she had saved him, he remained in a deep sleep. Wen Ruomian pleaded softly, "Why are you still sleeping? Please wake up soon." Tears glistened in her purple eyes as she frowned. "I'm so tired, Nie Yingcong. I feel like I can't hold on much longer. When on earth will you wake up?" The doctor patted her shoulder to comfort her. Wen Ruomian was startled and exclaimed, "Ugh." He advised her, "Miss Wen, you should go get some rest." The doctor explained, "We have already given Mr. Nie a new antibiotic. If his fever breaks tonight, he should be fine." Wen Ruomian said gratefully, "Thank you, doctor." A day later, she was still wiping Yingcong's body as usual. Sitting by the hospital bed, Wen Ruomian always gently repeated one sentence, "Nie Yingcong, I will be here until you recover." Suddenly, his finger twitched, and to her surprise, Yingcong spoke, "Xiao Mian." Seeing her beloved wake up, Wen Ruomian happily held his hand and called out, "Nie Yingcong." She widened her eyes in surprise. "You're awake." Yingcong replied softly. Overjoyed, Wen Ruomian leaned on his chest and cried, "That's wonderful. You're finally back." It hurt Yingcong, and he exclaimed, "Hiss." She quickly sat up and said in a panic, I'm sorry, I forgot you were injured. It's good that you're awake. I'll go get the doctor now." The doctor carefully examined Yingcong's condition, checking his pupil response. He took off his gloves and announced, "Mr. Nie is out of danger. His health indicators are basically stable, and he can be transferred to a regular ward." Wen Ruomian replied excitedly, "Okay, I'll go handle the transfer procedures for him right away." After being transferred to a regular ward, she still took very meticulous care of Yingcong. Wen Ruomian adjusted the height of his pillow and asked with concern, "Is this more comfortable?" He replied, "With you here, everything is comfortable." She said shyly, "You're so good with words." A nurse came in with a medicine tray. Interrupting their flirting, "Mr. Nie, it's time to change your dressing." The nurse said while changing the forebag, "Your wife is really good at taking care of patients. She's been here all night, not daring to leave for a moment. You're so lucky to have a wife like her." Wen Ruomian shyly denied it at this point. I'm not his wife. I'm just his subordinate." Nie Yingcong teased her. "Still, just a subordinate." She awkwardly corrected, "Well, we can also be considered friends, the kind who have saved each other's lives." He frowned. An indescribable pain suddenly flashed in his eyes. Seeing this, the nurse helped to smooth things over. "This friend of yours is too good to you. Anyone who didn't know would think you two were a couple." Wen Ruomian, not yet realizing the strangeness, brought out the congee to feed him. The doctor said you need to eat some easily digestible food. "I specially prepared this." Suddenly, Yingcong grabbed her hand. "Xiao Mian, I have something to tell you." Wen Ruomian was puzzled. "What is it?" He looked into her eyes sincerely. "When my identity was exposed at Bob's estate, I wasn't afraid of being hunted by a group of people. I wasn't afraid. But when I was pushed into the well and realized I might never get out and never see you again, I was terrified." Wen Ruomian was taken aback by his words and asked awkwardly, "Why are you suddenly saying this?" Yingcong interrupted her. "Xiao Mian, look at me." He said, "Only when a person has experienced a life-and-death test can they understand what they truly want." She also replied, honestly, what I did for you was what I should have done, so you don't have to be grateful to me like that." Yingcong interrupted again. "Listen to me. I rejected you before because I didn't want to drag you into the darkness that surrounds me." Wen Ruomian's eyes widened in surprise as she listened to him express his feelings. "The truth is Yingcong was full of sincerity, have always loved you." Before she could process all the information, she asked blankly what. He pulled Wen Ruomian back and held her in his arms. "I'm sorry for only letting you know now. I really only realized this at that moment. Forgive me for always rejecting you before." Are you willing to be with me? She hesitated, wanted to confirm. Nie Yingcong, are you telling the truth? Nie Yingcong also looked into Wen Ruomian's eyes and said honestly, of course it's true. I won't continue to hide my true feelings for you anymore. Tears of happiness welled up in the corners of her eyes, and Wen Ruomian said softly, okay. She hugged him tightly, I agree. Chun Feng suddenly walked in, scratching his cheek awkwardly. He looked at the scene before him with a somewhat teasing expression. I'm sorry to interrupt. I saw the thermos was out of water and wanted to get some. When Wen Ruomian saw Chun Feng, she hurriedly pushed Yingcong away from her embrace. She was very embarrassed, picked up the water bottle, and said stiffly, I'll go get it. Chun Feng changed his teasing target. Boss Nie, didn't you say you only saw her as a sister? He was provoked into some embarrassment and cursed helplessly. Shut up. He clicked his tongue, still flippant. TSK, TSK, TSK. Look at you full of spirit. You're recovering quite well. After a moment, Chun Feng put on a serious expression and said, Boss Nie, we should talk about business. Yingqing's expression also changed. I was just about to talk to you. Sit down, let's talk slowly. Chun Feng's voice sounded steady. I know, Boss Nie, there are many suspicious points about the failure of this operation. He replied, that's right, our plan was very secret, but the other side seemed to be able to anticipate our every move. He sat on the edge of the hospital bed and voiced his own speculation. That's what I'm worried about. It's possible that someone on the inside leaked the information. Yingqing looked away, seeming to agree. If there really is a mole, we must find them as soon as possible. Having worked with him for so long, Chun Feng naturally understood the deeper meaning, and he replied, I understand. I will definitely find that person. When Wen Ruomian returned, she happened to catch Chun Feng leaving. He also said enthusiastically, goodbye, sister-in-law. She looked at Chun Feng's childish teasing and didn't answer. After he disappeared, Wen Ruomian put the water bottle on the table and asked, what were you two talking about? Yingqing answered vaguely, nothing. He's going to do something. You don't need to worry. The weather gradually improved, and a long time had passed. While folding the quilt, Wen Ruomian happily announced the good news to Nie Yingcong. Nie Yingcong, you're recovering very quickly. The doctor said we can prepare for discharge. Suddenly, her wrist was grabbed by another hand. He pulled her closer and said sincerely, it's all because you took such good care of me. After completing the discharge procedures, the two walked out hand in hand. Nie Yingcong was as excited as a child. The air outside is so fresh. He suggested, let's go back to Beichong. The car drove to the main gate, where two bodyguards were on standby, responsible for opening the door to welcome the two. The employees inside saw the two and shouted happily, Boss Nie. Everyone happily surrounded him and her, constantly congratulating them. Welcome back. It's so great that you two are finally safe and sound. Yingqing also said a few polite words. Everyone has worked hard during this time. When Ruomian stepped forward, took Ruoshi's hand and said, Sister Ruoshi, I was just about to look for you. We can organize a special event for our Beichong's Christmas activities. She asked in return, also teasing, what event? You're really a good employee for Boss Nie. You haven't even put down your luggage, and you're already discussing work with me. He stood to the side, watching the two women chat nonstop, somewhat displeased. Suddenly, Yingcong cried out, ouch. The sudden sound pulled Wen Ruomian back to her senses, and she immediately turned to check on him. She quickly supported him. What's wrong? Should we see a doctor? Yingcong frowned. My arm suddenly hurts a little. Help me up. Standing to the side, Rushi had already seen through everything. She scoffed. Boss Yi, you're healthier than the fitness coaches here. How come you're so frail in front of Wen Ruomian? Wen Ruomian was still very worried. No, it's best to see a doctor. It's not necessary. He made an excuse, wanted to slip away. It didn't actually hurt that much. His attitude made her a little flustered, and she chided, why are you so childish? I plan to invite the daughter of the Lu family to the Christmas event, so I need to discuss it with Sister Rushi. Then, without another word, she pushed him toward Chun Feng and ordered Chun Feng take him inside to rest. When Ruomian turned her head and began discussing intently with Rushi, Sister Rushi, I'm planning to organize an event called Blindfolded Heartbeat. Watching her back, Yi Yingcong smiled gently. The rose I've cultivated has become both beautiful and capable. Chun Feng felt a chill and complained with a grimace. Ugh, Boss Yi, you're so cheesy. Rushi and Wen Ruomian went to another lounge. She took out 2 glasses of water, still talking nonstop. I want the participants to choose someone they're interested in through their heart rate, without knowing the other's identity. When the time comes, I'll arrange for a man to lure. Lu Jihan, Rushi seemed to approve. We need to start preparing the invitations and ensure the decor there is both romantic and mysterious. The two women discussed in detail. She suggested, we can post some mysterious ads on social media to get everyone excited about the event. Wen Ruomian also responded, exactly. We can also invite some celebrities to attend. Lu Jihan will definitely be interested then. Rushi pursed her lips, agreeing. That's a good idea. We can arrange some unexpected things during the event to make her fall into the trap without realizing it. After their discussion, they sat back down together. She suddenly asked, now that we're done with work, shouldn't we talk about you and Nie Yingcong? She asked in surprise, how did you know? Rushi felt insulted and said with a frown, please, the amorous gazes you two had when you walked in just now. Anyone with eyes could see it. Wen Ruomian was also helpless. All right. She leaned on her shoulder and confided, but I'm still a little worried. Rushi asked, is it because Bossy rejected you before? She answered honestly, MHM, I always feel like he's expressing his feelings for me out of gratitude for saving him. She wrapped her arm around hers and touched the butterfly hairpin in her hair. Rushi's gaze was sincere as she advised, little Mian, Bossy can support such a large company like Baicheng by himself. His background is definitely not simple, but none of us know his past. You better not fall too deep. Wen Ruomian closed her eyes, struggling to say the words she herself had to understand. I know what you mean. Wen Ruomian twisted the hair at her forehead in frustration. But I can't control my feelings, Rushi. Rushi was an experienced woman with a wealth of romantic experience. She showed Wen Ruomian a path, then focus on the work at hand. Time will tell whether Bossy is sincere or not. A staff member came to report. Manager 1, everything is ready according to your instructions. She stood up and shook hands with Rushi. You're right. A beautiful woman must first focus on her career. Let's go. We'll go see the results of their preparations. The poster was released, a beautiful girl blindfolded in the center of the screen, blindfolded heartbeat. Other guests were similar, their eyes covered with black cloth to match the event's name, blindfolded heartbeat. The girls gathered and chatted. This Christmas, I want to go to Baicheng. Lu Jihan held a business card in her hand, with the word Baicheng clearly printed on it. She happily kissed the card and picked out clothes. Great, even if my dad doesn't give me an allowance, having a rich sister can still help me soar. I must be the most dazzling one. Lu Jihan was wearing high heels. Seeing her go out so late, Lu Jihan asked with concern, it's so late. Where are you going dressed like that? Lu Jihan said stubbornly, Dad, I have a party with friends. Seeing this, he raised his voice and scolded, you girls shouldn't be running around at night. It's bad for your reputation. She lifted her face and argued defiantly, Dad, I'm not a child anymore. I know what I'm doing. With that, she brushed past Lu Jihan, leaving a cold remark. I'm going to be late. I'm leaving. He clenched his hands and said coldly, you'll stay put for the next 2 days. In a few days, I'll take you to meet suitable blind date candidates. They are all prominent figures. Lu Jihan was struck as if by lightning, her whole body turning cold. Lu Jihan recalled what Wen Ruomian had said. Do you know why I don't contact my family? Because they want to turn me into a pawn for a business marriage. Fear made her fight back. I'm not going. Lu Yu came over, linking arms with Lu Jihan. You're finally going to bring up Jiho's marriage. Which family's young master is it? Seeing that her mother wasn't helping her either, Lu Jihan became even angrier. Mom, don't listen to Dad. I don't want to go on a blind date. Rejected by his daughter, Lu Jihan's anger flared, and he roared, I am your father. Everything I do is for your own good. You must listen to me. Standing aside, Lu Yu also chimed in, telling Jiho, the people your dad knows are all people of status. This is your chance. But Lu Jihan was no fool. She retorted seriously, Dad, I don't understand. Why can't I work at our company, but I have to listen to you and go on a blind date? Lu Jihan spoke cruelly. You're a girl. Company matters are not for you to worry about. She felt as if she had heard a joke, even more annoyed by her father's sexism. What's wrong with a daughter worrying about it? What era is this? And you still favor sons over daughters? Being reprimanded to his face by his daughter, his eyes gradually darkened. What did you say? Without another word, Lu Jihan slapped Lu Jihan hard across the face. He said loudly, enough, Jihan. I don't want to hear this nonsense. I am your father. I will not allow you to challenge my authority. You must obey my arrangements. She covered her face, too stunned to speak. Dad, you hit me? Afraid of offending Lu Jihan, Lu Yu quickly placated her daughter. Good daughter, Don't be angry with your dad anymore. Lu Jihan clutched her bag strap and retorted stubbornly, I'm not. Dad is the one targeting me. She turned to leave. I'm leaving now. We can talk about the marriage later. He was enraged and cursed. This unfilial daughter. She's such a disappointment. Lu Jihan pointed at Lu Jiao's mother and scolded her too. Look at the fine daughter you've raised. No manners at all. Lu tried to speak up for her daughter. Jiao is still young. She doesn't know any better. I'll talk to her when she gets back. He seized the opportunity to press on, his words becoming even more scathing. How old is she and she still doesn't know any better? She's like this because you spoiled her. I thought you could give me a son. That's why I married you. You're so useless. She was stunned by the scolding, only able to stammer. Lu Jihan turned to leave, sneering coldly. We've been married for so many years. Don't put on an act in front of me. Lu was choked by his words, unable to speak. Baiching. Lu Jiao stood in one of the two long lines of customers outside Baiching, thinking excitedly. So this is Baiching. It really lives up to its reputation. The invited guests showed their business cards one by one, and she also went forward to show hers. Stepping inside, Lu Jiao was even more stunned. The people inside were happily dancing and chatting, the atmosphere extremely lively and relaxed. Wen Ruomian was standing to greet guests. Someone praised, Sister Wen, there's a new surprise every time I come. Sister Wen is amazing. She smiled politely and replied, thank you for coming. Baiching's mission is to provide the best service for everyone. When Ruomian shifted her gaze, saw her standing at the door, and greeted, Jiao, you're here. Lu Jiao greeted her enthusiastically, praising her generously. Sister Wen, you're amazing. Do you manage this whole huge Baiching? She said modestly, what's so amazing? I'm just working for the boss. When Ruomian let her in and introduced, this is our VIP area, and that's the dance floor. If you prefer quiet, there's a lounge area upstairs. Lu Jiao was very interested. This place is really great. I'm already looking forward to tonight's event. She leaned close to her ear and whispered, there are a lot of handsome guys and male models today. Later, when the lights go out, you can grab anyone you like. Lu Jiao was not shy either. Then I'll have to choose carefully later. When Ruomian also affirmed, I've already arranged a spot for you in the upstairs lounge. Go rest for a while. I'll call you when the event starts. She also replied happily, okay. Suddenly, a voice came from the door. A young man was being dragged in, protesting vehemently. Hey, I've been in surgery all day. I'm exhausted. Why are you dragging me here? The person dragging the young man pointed inside and introduced, it's because you're tired that you need to come here to relax. The person being dragged was Gu Xiaoping. He said with some resistance, you guys go ahead and have fun. I'm really... Suddenly, Gu Xiaoping's gaze landed on Wen Ruomian not far away. He thought to himself, it's... Seeing the person's face clearly, it was indeed Wen Ruomian. He was stunned. It's her. Ignoring his friend, Gu Xiaoping went forward to greet her. Miss Wen, we meet again. Wen Ruomian was surprised to see him, exclaiming, oh. The joy of meeting an acquaintance made them more relaxed. Dr. Gu, what a coincidence. What are you doing here? He answered casually, I came here with my colleagues to relax. Another person stroked his chin, racking his brain. Dr. Gu is usually so cold and aloof, ignoring everyone. The sun must have risen from the west today. He's actually initiating a conversation with a girl. Seeing this, two other guests exchanged glances and whispered. One said, that girl is not simple. She's the manager of Baiching. The other replied, what's so special about her to make Dr. Gu act like that? When Ruomian asked softly, Dr. Gu, why did you come here? You seemed very busy last time I went for a checkup. Gu Xiaoping didn't deny it. It is very busy, but I also need to relax occasionally. Suddenly, a drunk guest staggered over, laughing dreamily, He bumped into her shoulder, and when Ruomian cried out in pain from the impact. Then he stumbled forward. Oh. Gu Xiaoping quickly steadied her, reminding, be careful. Gu Xiaoping asked with concern, are you all right? When Ruomian took a step back, steadied herself, and replied, I'm fine, thank you. But they didn't know that their interaction had been watched from the very beginning. Nie Yingcong asked Chun Feng coldly, who is that man? He was caught off guard by the question and answered awkwardly, I don't know, bossy. Gu Xiaoping continued walking with Wen Ruomian. He inquired, Miss Wen, is Baiching always this lively? She explained generously and sincerely, of course, we strive to provide the best experience for every customer. However, the atmosphere is even more lively during holidays and special events. On stage, the band was performing passionately. Wen Ruomian said, and today we also have a Christmas matchmaking event, which is very popular online. Gu Xiaoping asked, matchmaking? She was about to say something. Yes, it's Suddenly, someone interrupted. Manager Wen Feng approached, gesturing, "Bossy is looking for you in the office." Wen Ruomian replied with a hint of confusion, "Okay, I'll be right there." She turned her head and said politely, "Excuse me, Dr. Gu, I have to step away for a moment. Have fun with your colleagues. I'll give you a discount next time." Gu Xiaoping replied with understanding. "It's all right, go ahead." After Wen Ruomian left, he continued to watch her back without speaking. Gu Xiaoping walked to the bar, and his friends immediately surrounded him to tease him. Our cold and aloof male god actually initiated a conversation with the manager of Baiqing. He rolled his eyes. "Don't overthink it. We just had a simple chat." His friend continued to tease. "Oh, really?" Wen Ruomian knocked on the door twice. There was no response from inside, which made her suspicious. Is anyone in there? Suddenly, the door opened a crack, and a hand reached out and pulled her in. Caught off guard, Wen Ruomian exclaimed, "Ah." She was pressed against the door, her back to it, as the person braced his hand above her head. Nie Yingcong smirked self-deprecatingly. "You always manage to attract everyone's attention." Wen Ruomian was stunned. "Attract? Are you talking about Dr. Gu?" He stroked her hair and said coldly, "I don't care who he is. Tell me, what other friends do you have that I don't know about?" Wen Ruomian's eyes widened, her face innocent. "I met Dr. Gu by chance before. We're not really friends. We've only met twice." Nie Yingcong rested his chin on her shoulder, burying his face in the crook of her neck to take a sniff, then ordered, "Anyway, I don't like other men getting close to you." Wen Ruomian glanced sideways. "Nie Yingcong, are you jealous?" He held her face and said domineeringly, "So what if I am? You're mine." Wen Ruomian's face turned red from Nie Yingcong's domineering words, unable to speak for a long time. Finally, she pushed him away in a fluster. "Of course here, I'm your employee." She turned around, leaving him with a sentence. "The event is about to start. I have to go." Then she slammed the door shut with a bang, leaving Nie Yingcong still stunned and speechless. The event venue. Wen Ruomian pointed to a pile of masks on the table and said, "Go, distribute these to the guests." She asked, "Sister Rushi, is everything arranged?" Rushi turned her head and replied, "Don't worry, Wen Ruomian. I've found the perfect candidate." She snapped her fingers, "Come out." A young man with dyed blonde hair and a gentle face walked out. His voice was clear. "Miss Wen Ruomian, I understand my task. I will do my best to complete it." Wen Ruomian was very satisfied and praised. "Very good. Your appearance and demeanor meet the requirements. I believe Lu Jihan will be interested in you." Then she went forward to instruct, "Go and get ready. Go and ask Lu Ju to dance later." Rushi crossed her arms. The restaurant Lu Jihan invested and lost a lot of money due to a food poisoning incident. He must be in a hurry to arrange a blind date for his daughter to promote investment cooperation now. She replied, "I won't let Lu Jihan's plan succeed. It's time to give him a surprise." Melodious music sounded, and Rushi's voice echoed in the space. In this darkness full of mystery, Baiqing's matchmaking event is about to begin. She introduced the rules. Everyone under the mask is looking forward to a heart-fluttering encounter. Remember, after 3 minutes, when the music stops, we will turn off the lights for 30 seconds, and everyone can kiss their dance partner. The guests quickly paired up. Lu Jihan also received a mask. Wen Ruomian said, "Go on, you might meet a nice guy." After she put on the mask, she took her hand and spun her around the dance floor. Lu Jihan was a little worried. "Sister Mian, let's play together. I'm a bit shy by myself." Wen Ruomian immediately and cleverly refused. "But I have to be in charge of organizing the event right now," she suggested, "or I can help you find a dance partner." Wen Ruomian looked around, a troubled expression on her face. "I shouldn't participate in this game. I have to find an excuse to leave." Suddenly, a clear voice sounded, "Miss Lu Jihan." She turned her head, not noticing the smug smile on Wen Ruomian's lips. The arranged young man extended his hand and said politely, "May I have this dance?" She was stunned. "Oh." She pushed Lu Jihan from behind, encouraging, "Go on." Wen Ruomian watched quietly from a distance, a smile slowly forming on her lips. It seems the plan is going smoothly. I have to let him know that the mistress's daughter is also easy to control. Suddenly, all the lights went out. There was a clamor as everyone looked around. She stood on stage with a microphone and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, the most exciting moment is about to arrive. Please get ready to enjoy a kiss with your dance partner tonight." Lu Jihan's hands slipped from her partner's, and she let out a surprised cry. Fortunately, another hand caught hers. Lu Jiao stared at his hand in shock, without blinking. Lu Jiao couldn't help but wonder, is it him? At that moment, Gu Xiaoping whispered in her ear, "Don't move, hold on to me." This made Lu Jiao's heart beat faster. He didn't kiss me. She stood aside gossiping, surrounded by couples, looking lonely. Suddenly, an arm reached out, grabbed Wen Ruomian's shoulder, and pulled her towards him. She was suddenly attacked, gasped involuntarily, and looked up at the person. Nie Yingcong directly captured her lips, giving Wen Ruomian a passionate kiss. She blushed with embarrassment and murmured, "Nie Yingcong." Her eyes closed slightly, gradually becoming mesmerized, drawn into Nie Yingcong's rhythm. She followed Nie Yingcong's lead, reaching out to place her hands behind his neck. As their lips and tongues parted, they gasped for air, making heavy sounds. Wen Ruomian looked into his eyes shyly. "Nie Yingcong, Nie Yingcong gently caressed her face, expressing his feelings. "I've waited a long time for this moment." Mian. Wen Ruomian froze when she heard this name, her eyes widening in disbelief. He reluctantly let go of Wen Ruomian's hand, slowly increasing the distance between them. She shyly touched her lips, savoring the feeling from just now. Just then, all the lights suddenly came on. Rushi continued to announce, 3 minutes are up. In this game, everyone is looking for a heart-fluttering feeling. A kiss under the mask might just be part of the game, but for some, it could be the beginning of love. She slowly took off her mask. Seeing her face, Gu Xiaoping exclaimed in surprise, "How is it you?" Lu Jiao stared at him blankly, her eyes fixed. Gu Xiaoping hurriedly let go of her hand and apologized. "I'm sorry, I thought you were." Lu Jiao was captivated, praising in her heart, "What a polite man. He must think it's rude to kiss on the first meeting, so he didn't want to take advantage of me through the game." He explained awkwardly, "Miss, it's just a misunderstanding, I thought." Lu Jiao immediately persuaded, "It's okay. This kind of game is always full of surprises." She saw the two of them standing side by side from a distance and thought, "This is not good. The plan went wrong." Suddenly, someone shouted, "Dr. Gu, we have to go." Gu Xiaoping turned his head and replied, "I'm coming." Before leaving, he didn't forget to say goodbye. "My friends are calling me. Please excuse me." Lu Jiao's face was flushed, and she shyly said to Sister Mian, "Who is this handsome guy? Is he your friend? He's much more handsome than the one I danced with." Wen Ruomian raised her wine glass and answered slowly, "Are you talking about Dr. Gu? He's a guest at our baiqing." Lu Jiao was stunned, muttering to herself, "Dr. Gu." She watched silently without making a sound. Wen Ruomian considered it carefully. Although the plan failed, why not go with the flow and set up Gu Xiaoping and Lu Jiao? Wouldn't that also ruin Lu Zhai's plan? He was tidying his clothes when he suddenly heard Wen Ruomian call him, "Dr. Gu." She approached to chat with Gu Xiaoping. "Are you and your colleagues getting ready to leave?" He heard her and replied, "Yes, it's getting late. We need to go back and rest." Wen Ruomian blinked and said enticingly, "I see you and Miss Lu had a good time today. Do you want her contact information?" He directly waved his hand in refusal. "Thank you, Miss Wen, but I don't have any feelings for Miss Lu." Wen Ruomian put her hands behind her back and tried to persuade him, "It's okay if you don't have feelings. You can be friends first. What's wrong with having one more friend?" At this, Gu Xiaoping also agreed. "You have a point." He smiled and proposed an idea. "Then I'll become friends with Miss Wen first, and you can send me her recommendation link." Wen Ruomian agreed excitedly. "Okay." A young man raised a glass of wine and invited, "Beauty, are you alone? Let me buy you a drink." Lu Jiao glanced sideways at the sound. "Thanks." She took a sip of the wine in her hand and complained inwardly, "This wine is too strong. It doesn't taste good." Lu Jiao stood up and made an excuse to leave. "Thank you for the drink. I have something to do. Please excuse me." At this, the man raised his hand to stop her. "Leaving already? How about I buy you another drink?" Lu Jiao quickly continued, "Thank you, but I'm really not interested in drinking." He became angry from the embarrassment and raised his voice to curse. "What do you mean? I'm buying you a drink, and you have this attitude?" Lu Jiao retorted sharply, "I didn't ask you to buy me a drink. You did it voluntarily." The man's face darkened, and he spat through gritted teeth. "What did you say?" Then he slapped Lu Jiao directly across the face, making her turn her head to the side. He also cursed loudly, "You damn woman, you really don't know what's good for you." Lu Jiao trembled with anger, covering her slapped cheek. "You dare to hit me?" She directly grabbed the man's hair. Lu Jihan pulled his hair hard, yanking him towards her. Who do you think you are? The man was caught off guard by this sudden counterattack, stumbling and unable to stand firm. Lu Jihan took the opportunity to push him to the ground, still not letting go of his hair. Who do you think you are? Gu Xiaoping asked in confusion. What's happening? She assessed the situation, worried. Oh no, she's being bullied. The man was sweating from the pain and shouted in terror. Stop pulling. I'm going bald. Seeing that the situation was not good, Wen Ruomian loudly advised, Jihan, stop. A hand unexpectedly grabbed her arm, pulling her back. Lu Jihan was stunned when she saw who pulled her. It's you two. She immediately stood up, shyly getting off the man. I just wanted to teach him a lesson. He started it. Wen Ruomian gently tucked her hair behind her ear and comforted her softly. It's okay. This kind of person isn't worth your effort. Then she turned to Gu Xiaoping and suggested, Dr. Gu, could I trouble you to take Miss Lu home? I don't think she's in a good state right now. He readily agreed. Of course, I'll see her home safely. Lu Jihan blushed with embarrassment and explained awkwardly, Dr. Gu, I'm not usually this aggressive. He took off his coat and draped it over Lu Jihan. Miss Lu, there's nothing wrong with protecting yourself. You don't need to be ashamed. She was moved beyond words after hearing this and thanked him softly. Thank you, Dr. Gu. Wen Ruomian was silent, watching the two leave from a distance. She quietly approached, crossed her arms, and remarked, I didn't expect that after seeing the plan fail. I arranged for Xiao Nan to provoke Lu Jihan, hoping for a hero to save the damsel, but it turns out she's quite brave. Wen Ruomian continued, I didn't expect that either. Rushi rested her chin on her hand and sighed with a smile, but it's a good thing. I've gained her trust. Rushi turned to look at her. That's right. It seems that Lu Jihan has completely let her guard down around you now. She suddenly remembered the date and quickly announced, by the way, boss, he said he's picking you up to go out tomorrow morning. Hearing this, Wen Ruomian immediately teased. What? I've never seen him go out for fun. Did the sun rise from the west? She tidied her hair and took the opportunity to tease Wen Ruomian. He must have seen Dr. Gu today, felt a sense of crisis, and wants to boost his presence in front of his cute girlfriend. She quickly retorted, What nonsense are you talking about? Wen Ruomian put on a straight face and announced seriously, I'm not some cute girl. I'm the queen of Baiqing. She was playfully hit, but still smiled happily. All right. I wish you and the king a happy outing tomorrow. Nie Yingcong looked down, his mind a mess as he thought, the screen of his phone showing a dating guide. Nie Yingcong carefully selected based on the article. Watching a movie, go to a restaurant, that's not very original. Going to the zoo, go to an amusement park. Is that for kids? Got it. The lotus vase was exquisitely arranged, just like his intentions. At this moment, hello, I'd like to book a spot for tomorrow morning. Yes, for 2 people. The next day, when Ruomian carefully chose her clothes, I must have a romantic date today. I have to pick the most beautiful dress. Her mood became even more cheerful as she chose her favorite lipstick shade. Wen Ruomian put on a sparkling necklace, accentuating her slender collarbone. She put on an elegant blue dress and admired the result with satisfaction. Perfect. Nie Yingcong leaned handsomely against the car. He was suddenly startled by Wen Ruomian's voice. Yingcong. She waved happily in greeting. Have you been waiting long? Nie Yingcong was lost in a daze for a moment, then called out softly, Mian. He asked again, awkwardly, you're dressed like this today? Wen Ruomian couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Hearing this, what's wrong? Does it not look good? Nie Yingcong scratched his face in confusion and explained, no, I just didn't expect you to dress so formally. We can change into another set when we get there. She was curious. Change clothes? Where are we going? Nie Yingcong said mysteriously, you'll know in a bit. Wen Ruomian stared blankly at the sign, speechless. She immediately raised her eyebrows, turned around, and asked directly, you're bringing me here? Nie Yingcong slowly introduced, yes, this is a place I spent a long time carefully selecting. He chattered on ahead of her. Let's go. I'll take you to get changed. But Wen Ruomian stood rooted to the spot, refusing to take a single step. What kind of strange date is this? Nie Yingcong took a hit from her and corrected her seriously. You have to pay attention to your force with this move. After feeling it out, he commented, yes, just like that. Maintain your balance. Wen Ruomian quickly followed up, like this. The moment she finished speaking, she landed a heavy punch on Nie Yingcong's chin. She anxiously covered her mouth and asked with concern, I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Nie Yingcong's body couldn't stop shaking as he fell silent. He then changed the subject to break the awkwardness of the moment. Looks like I'll have to be more careful. I can't underestimate you. Wen Ruomian winked playfully and raised her hands, affirming, I'm not to be trifled with. An hour later, Nie Yingcong thoughtfully wiped the sweat from Wen Ruomian's face. Are you tired? Hearing this, she replied, I'm okay. Before taking a sip of water, Wen Ruomian said shyly, although this isn't the date I had in mind, I really enjoy the feeling of breaking a sweat. He was moved beyond words and took the opportunity to express his feelings. Me too. I'm very happy to be able to do these things with you. Nie Yingcong scratched his head and explained sheepishly, I don't know what kind of dates girls like. The places I usually go are either by Cheng or Fengji Gym, so I didn't know where to take you. She replied sweetly, it's okay. The gym is quite interesting too. Wen Ruomian's face suddenly brightened even more. But there's a place I'd like to go with you. In front of the music stage, a crowd waved light sticks, gathered to watch the performance. She linked her arm with Nie Yingcong's and introduced excitedly, I've always wanted to come to this music festival. The folk music festival here is different from the glitz and glamour of Baicheng. After the performance, the singer thanked the audience. Thank you, everyone. Her eyes sparkled like stars as she shouted enthusiastically, that song was amazing. A few seconds later, the host announced, next, we will select 3 lucky fans from the big screen to sing this song with us. As the screen scrolled to Nie Yingcong, the host shouted, stop. Upon hearing the next words, Wen Ruomian couldn't help but feel happy for him. Congratulations to this music fan. She hurriedly pushed Nie Yingcong forward. Go on. This is an opportunity that fans can't even buy. He glanced back, dumbfounded and unable to argue. Nie Yingcong slowly walked up the steps and approached the stage. He stood mechanically like a statue, lamenting inwardly, this is harder than fighting. The host, beaming, brought the microphone close for an interview. Handsome, did you come alone? Hearing this, Nie Yingcong's face finally relaxed, and oh, I came with my girlfriend. The audience, understanding the situation, began to buzz curiously. As expected, the handsome guys are all taken. Which lucky lady is it? He picked up the guitar and announced to everyone, I want to sing this song for someone special. She's my everything. Nie Yingcong's long fingers glided elegantly over the guitar strings. His voice was melodious, and he sang every word with deep affection for Wen Ruomian. Under the brilliant starry sky, I found your eyes. She blushed shyly at the surprise. He can play the guitar? Nie Yingcong, handsome and dashing, sang in his deep voice, finally, I've found where I belong. She couldn't help but be moved, her eyes gazing gently at the stage. Your smile is the warmest light in my heart. Listening to his song, Wen Ruomian's eyes gradually filled with tears. In the bustle of Baicheng, the city that never sleeps, you are my only desire. Nie Yingcong shone on stage, but his eyes were only for Wen Ruomian. That we've been through so much together. You've become an indispensable part of my life. The audience burst into thunderous applause, showering him with praise. He sang so well. The moment Nie Yingcong jumped off the stage, the crowd screamed with excitement. Blocked by the crowd, he could only reach out his hand helplessly. Ruomian, surrounded by the crowd, when Ruomian anxiously called out his name, Nie Yingcong. She struggled in the crowd, trying to get a bit higher to call out, I'm here. But when Ruomian was unexpectedly bumped into by someone and let out a pain groan. Just then, a strong hand grabbed hers, and when Ruomian's body quickly fell into his warm embrace. Nie Yingcong held her tightly and murmured softly, found you. When Ruomian couldn't help but wrap her arms around his shoulders. Thank you. That's the most beautiful song I've ever heard. Her voice couldn't hide her surprise. I never knew you could sing so well. Nie Yingcong replied, no one knows I like to sing. Suddenly, fireworks were set off, blooming into beautiful patterns in the night sky. When Ruomian looked up at the sight and immediately exclaimed, so beautiful. He held her slender shoulders steadily and said with gentle concern, Mian, you must remember that I will always be by your side no matter what. As for Luzi's matter, if you can't handle it, you must tell me and I will help you solve it. When Ruomian placed her hand on his chest and slowly agreed. Okay. When Ruomian took the initiative to hug him and said, moved, Yingcong, I hope our love can be like these fireworks. fireworks. Even if it's brief, it must be brilliant. Nie Yingcong gently stroked her hair and chided her dotingly, silly girl. Nie Yingcong placed a soft kiss on her forehead. Our love won't be brief. The two stood side by side under the starry sky. Their fingers intertwined. It will be like this starry sky, stretching for thousands of miles. In the darkness of the night, the city was still brilliantly lit, this city that never sleeps. The secretary stood beside him fawningly, reporting anxiously, "Boss Lu, these failed investments have caused serious losses to the company, forcing us to find new sources of investment. Otherwise, our funds will be insufficient to sustain company operations." Lu Jihan leaned on the table, carefully considering a plan. "Tomorrow is Boss Chun of Ding Fong Group's birthday. This is an opportunity. Go and prepare a gift for Boss Chun for me." The secretary immediately complied. "Yes, sir." At a lavish party, Boss Chun was chatting happily with a girl beside him when his expression suddenly changed. He turned to the side and questioned Lu Jihan, "What are you doing here?" Lu Jihan held up the gift bag in his hand. "Boss Chun, although I didn't receive an invitation, I heard it's your birthday today, so I took the liberty of coming to congratulate you. Please forgive my presumption." Hearing this, he reluctantly accepted. "Well, thank you." Lu Jihan, still unwilling to leave, raised his glass and brought up as if by chance, "Boss Chun, I've been looking for new investment opportunities recently. I was wondering if you could offer some advice." His face showed his displeasure, giving him no quarter. "Lu Jihan, this is my birthday party. Are you sure you want to talk to me about this?" He remained silent, quietly observing Boss Chun talking with others. Lu Jihan waited until he was about to leave before stopping him. "Boss Chun, please wait a moment." Lu Jihan handed over the documents in his hand and suggested in a low voice, "Please take a look at our company's report. This investment is very important to me." He didn't seem to care, refusing flatly. "I told you I don't want to talk about this today." But Lu Jihan continued to pester him, explaining his situation. "Boss Chun, I understand how you feel, but my company has run into some difficulties and needs your help." Boss Chin's brow gradually furrowed, and he just observed him carefully without saying a word. Then Boss Chun slowly spoke, introducing an idea to Lu Jihan. "If I remember correctly, you have your own shipping company, right? Well, when you're importing and exporting goods, you could secretly transport some contraband." He was stunned, as if he couldn't believe his ears. "What did you say?" Boss Chin quickly closed the distance and instructed in a low voice, "I know it sounds a bit risky, but the profits are very substantial. This money would be more than just a lifeline for you." Hearing this, Lu Jihan was caught in a dilemma, unable to make a decision. "But that's too dangerous." He put on a very confident expression and casually promised, "How can you make big money without taking risks?" "Don't worry, I can guarantee that every step of the process will be foolproof." Lu Jihan was now facing a difficult choice and fell silent for a moment. After a moment of consideration, he extended his hand to shake Boss Chin's. "All right, it's a deal then, to cooperate with your company." He excitedly assured Lu Jihan, "If this cooperation is successful, we will both make huge profits." He continued enthusiastically, "Thank you for your trust, Boss Chun. I won't let you down." Lu Jihan looked at the stock trends and said with satisfaction, "Very good." He carefully observed the report in his hand and calmly ordered, "The cooperation with Boss Chun has finally given the company some breathing room. I heard Boss Chun likes young girls. Go find a few good-looking ones." Hearing this, the secretary lowered his voice and advised, "Boss Lu, that's not a good idea." Lu Jihan immediately roared, "Cut the crap and do as I say." The secretary lowered his head and complied dejectedly, "Yes, sir." While receiving the report, the secretary suddenly remembered, "All right, Boss Chun said he wants to invite you to their private party this week." Lu Jihan couldn't help but feel uneasy. "Why by Chung again? I had an unpleasant dispute with manager one last time. I really don't want to go there again." However, he remembered, "But Boss Chun is a gold mine who can bring me big business. I can't afford to offend him." Lu Jihan's eyes suddenly lit up as he thought of a way to kill two birds with one stone. "Right, there's a way to let Boss Chun have fun and also take care of that little bitch. I asked you to investigate the identity of Bai Cheng's manager one before. What did you find?" The secretary quickly handed over a resume. "It's all here." An image of Wen Ruomian suddenly appeared in the contents. According to the investigation, Miss Wen Ruomian was living in an orphanage at this age and was later taken away by Nie Yingcong. She just looks like the missing young lady. It's very likely there's no connection. He stared at the contents in his hand and probed. "So, she really has no connection to our family? She just looks similar?" The secretary quickly replied, "Yes, Boss Lu. She's just an ordinary orphan. Lu Zi's face darkened, and he muttered grimly to himself, "Wen Ruomian, who on earth are you? Why do I always find you so familiar?" She was focused on the documents on her desk, completely unaware that Lu Zi was plotting against her. However, since she's just an orphan, I don't have to worry anymore. Chen Ruoshi stood before her with her hands on her hips, announcing happily, "We've hired a detective and prepared a fake identity for you, which has been given to Lu Zi's secretary." Wen Ruomian then smiled and continued, "Good, let's wait and see what happens." Lu Zi led 3 girls, carefully looking around and assessing. There are no cameras here. The bodyguard stood quietly outside, observing the group's every move. Afterward, the bodyguard hurriedly reported the situation to Wen Ruomian. "Manager Wen, Lu Zi has shown up for some reason, and he brought a few girls with him." She flicked her hair back to reveal her earpiece and issued a stern instruction, "Don't kick them out for now. Keep a close eye on them. I'll handle it." Boss Chun extended his hand with a broad smile to welcome him. "Boss Lu, you're finally here. Please have a seat." He immediately noticed the 3 girls behind Lu Zi. "Look at you, just coming is enough. Why bring so many beauties?" He catered to the others' preference. "I know you like beautiful women. These ladies are all in the prime of their youth." Then Lu Zi quickly pushed a girl into his arms that "Go on, serve Boss Chun." Boss Chun laughed excitedly, praising him generously. "Lu Zi, you really know how to please people." With 2 girls in his arms, he slowly stated his reward. "Lu Zi, you did very well for your first time. In the future, your company can take on more shipping business. I'll have someone contact you." Lu Zi quickly expressed his thanks. "Thank you, Boss Chen. I definitely won't disappoint you." He smiled wickedly and announced loudly, "Boss Chun, I came with the utmost sincerity this time. These girls were all handpicked by me. Feel free to have your fun." Boss Chun licked his lips, lecherously eyeing the girls' bodies. "You're so thoughtful. In that case, I won't be polite." He sat calmly opposite them, witnessing the entire process of Boss Chen's actions. He pushed the girl's head onto the chair and barked, "Drink. I told you to drink. Why aren't you drinking?" The girl groaned in pain. Suddenly, the girl's vision went black, and she groggily closed her eyes. Seeing her faint, Boss Chen panicked and turned to Lu Zi in extreme disarray for advice. "Now, what do we do now?" He calmly raised his glass and reassured him, "You don't need to worry. I'll handle this. You leave first, I'll clean everything up." Boss Chun anxiously grabbed his jacket and fled in a hurry. Then, "I'll be leaving first. You're something else, Boss Lu." He reached out and gently poked the unconscious girl's shoulder. The girl's eyes gradually opened, and she sat up, saying softly, "Boss Lu." Lu Zi couldn't help but praise. Good acting. He distributed the money, paying them for their work, and didn't forget to remind them, when the police arrive later, just say what we arranged beforehand. "Okay, thank you, boss." Lu Zi immediately made a call, reporting to the other party in a low voice. "Hello, is this the police station? I want a report by Chung for providing illegal services." "Yes, right now." Then he turned around again and anxiously reminded them once more, "You must remember, today you are the hostesses that by Chung arranged for the guest." The girls replied in unison, "Don't worry, we know what to say." Lu Zi smiled sinisterly, pleased that his plan was about to succeed. "Wen Ruomian, let's see how you handle this." Wen Ruomian slowly walked over and probed the bodyguards. "You guys stand guard outside. I'll go in and check the situation." Just as she reached out to push the door, a voice suddenly rang out. "Excuse me, are you the manager here, Wen Ruomian?" The police officer showed his professional credentials and then announced, "We are police from the Beilu station. We just received a report that illegal services are being provided here." Wen Ruomian was momentarily confused about what was happening. "What?" She hurriedly tried to explain. "Officer, this is a misunderstanding. Bai Chung has always operated legally." The officer held out a hand to stop her and sternly demanded, "In that case, please cooperate with our investigation." Wen Ruomian was cornered when just then a voice suddenly rang out, "Officer, the evidence is right here." Lu Zi strode forward menacingly, leading the girls who had been acting earlier. "Look at the injuries on the hostesses arranged by Bai Chung." She immediately retorted sternly, "You're talking nonsense. I've never seen these girls before. Bai Chung has never arranged such services." The officer then advised, "Don't get agitated. We will investigate this clearly." One of the female officers stepped forward, checking and assessing the girl's injuries. "She does have a lot of wounds on her body." Upon hearing this, the officer immediately made a request. "Where are your IDs? We need to check your ages." The girls simultaneously took out their IDs and solemnly handed them to the police here. After checking both IDs, the officer was immediately speechless. They are both minors. After careful consideration, he came to a conclusion. Manager Wen, although we can't directly prove that you arranged this, the incident did happen on your premises, and it involves organizing minors for illegal activities. This is a very serious crime, so we have no choice but to investigate this place. Wen Ruomian couldn't help but get angry upon hearing this, trying to argue to clear her name. What? I told you this is Lu Ji framing us. These girls are not our people. He arranged them. Being called out, he followed the prearranged plan and asked the girls, "You keep saying I arranged these girls to frame you." Then asked them, "Hey, do you know me?" The girls gave the same answer in unison. "We don't know you." When Ruomian angrily exposed them directly, "You people are acting. You're all in this together." The police officer unhurriedly announced the order. Manager 1, regardless, the injuries on these girls and their minor status make it impossible for us not to take action. To ensure the investigation proceeds, Bai Chung must suspend its business for 2 months. When Ruomian was extremely anxious and argued frantically with them, this is unfair. We've been framed. Shortly after, the police quickly sealed off Bai Cheng's business area. Lu Ji smiled triumphantly and whispered sarcastically, "When Ruomian, it looks like your Bai Cheng is really finished this time. I hope you can survive the 2-month suspension, but I don't think the chances are good." She angrily rebuked Lu Ji. "You will pay for this." He was unafraid and continued to scorn Wen Ruomian. "Pay the price? You did this yourselves. I just reported the truth." Bai Cheng has always had a bad reputation, so this is a good opportunity for the police to deal with it. She flew into a rage, cursing at him loudly. "You scumbag. Shameless, cruel. You won't come to a good end." Before turning to leave, Lu Ji didn't forget to leave a parting shot. "Comeuppance? I only believe in power. When Ruomian, I don't think we'll have the chance to meet again." She was so enraged, she had no strength left to argue. When Ruomian thought to herself, "Lu Ji, I only hate that your blood doesn't run in my veins." Although Nie Yingcong was walking on the street, his mind was elsewhere, but for Bai Cheng's cameras to actually have this blind spot. Suddenly, he noticed something up ahead. At a shop that was currently closed, there was a surveillance camera in an inconspicuous spot. A sign hanging on the shop door indicated it was closed for a holiday, along with an emergency contact number. Holiday contact 123456778. Please call for any urgent matters. Nie Yingcong quickly dialed the number, calling the shop owner. "Hello, is this Ning Coffee? I lost a very expensive watch yesterday. Could I take a look at the camera footage from your storefront?" A sign hung in front of a large building, Beilu Police Station. He handed the evidence in his hand to the officer in front of him. "Officer, the footage from the coffee shop across the street can prove that these girls entered by avoiding Bai Cheng's cameras." In the captured footage, Lu Ji was leading the 3 girls inside, but this only proves that these girls are not official employees of your Bai Cheng. After a careful inspection, the officer raised a point after a while, but Bai Cheng's security management still has loopholes, so the suspension penalty cannot be revoked. Hearing this, Wen Ruomian anxiously retorted, "We've clearly proven we didn't break the law, so why do we still have to suspend business?" Nie Yingcong grabbed her arm to stop her, then turned to communicate with the police. "Okay, we will cooperate, but we also hope the police will not let these bad people go." When Ruomian followed him out of the police station, Nie Yingcong, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. I brought trouble to Bai Cheng." Looking at her face, which was on the verge of tears from being wronged, Nie Yingcong comforted her softly. "This isn't your fault." He slowly stated, "This has nothing to do with you. Bai Cheng does have loopholes. It's better to discover them early." When Ruomian couldn't help but worry for him, but for those 2 months, how much will Bai Cheng lose? Nie Yingcong's gaze softened, and he calmly soothed her emotions. "I put you in charge of Bai Cheng in the first place because I believe in your abilities. So even if we encounter problems like this along the way, I trust you have the ability to solve them." When Ruomian was deeply moved and whispered softly, "Yingcong." He raised his eyebrows and declared proudly, "What a mere Bai Cheng? I could give you 100 of them if I wanted." When Ruomian patted his shoulder, making a crisp sound, and chuckled, "I know you're rich, but I've also put my heart and soul into Bai Cheng." In front of Wen Ruomian's office, she worriedly, "Read every line on the form in her hand in detail. A maintenance notice." Wen Ruomian thought as she read, "So it needs to be repaired for 2 months. She reached out and picked up the phone on her desk. Lu Jihan was relaxing with a face mask on when she suddenly heard the phone ring. After answering the call, she immediately spoke first. Sister Wen, what's up? Wen Ruomian slowly extended an invitation. Xiao Yu, want to go see an exhibition together? She readily agreed. Sure, Sister Wen. I'm about to grow mold at home. In front of the exhibition hall, as the two were admiring the exhibits, Wen Ruomian suddenly probed, You seem to be doing well recently. Your dad isn't cutting your allowance anymore. She naively sold out Lu Jihan. My dad has been a bit generous lately. He has a pretty good business. Seems to be about sea freight. She feigned surprise and probed deeper. Doing international trade? That requires a lot of resources. Lu Jihan turned her face to the other side and replied dismissively, Who knows? As long as someone gives me money to spend, I'm fine. After gathering this much information, she thought carefully. Lu Jihan used to do international trade, but for there to be such a big change so suddenly, there must be something fishy. A tall apartment building, with a few lights faintly visible in the rooms, Nie Yingcong's apartment. Wen Ruomian rested her face in her hands and reported dejectedly, Lu Jihan's international business has been doing very well recently, but we all know that's a big playground. It's impossible for him to suddenly import so many goods. There must be a reason behind it. He immediately understood upon hearing this. Unless they're dealing with abnormal goods. Wen Ruomian had the same thought and was now thinking seriously. I think so too. His dock only has a few containers. It's impossible to suddenly have so much money. What could it be? Instantly, Nie Yingcong suddenly thought a question. He came to buy Chung for Boss Chin's party before. What's that Boss Chin's background? She replied, That man does anything as long as it makes money. So it could be. Nie Yingcong concluded after a period of thought, smuggling illegal goods. Lu Jihan's company is heavily in debt. It's very likely he'd take the risk to do this. She couldn't sit still any longer and quickly proposed, No, I have to investigate. Wen Ruomian turned to look at him and stated, I'm very familiar with his dock. I have to go take a look. Nie Yingcong couldn't help but feel worried. It's too dangerous for you to go alone now. She immediately reassured him, It's okay. I've been keeping an eye on it all these years. After all, international trade is the business my grandfather left behind. Nie Yingcong looked at her for a long time without a sound. Wen Ruomian gave in and hugged him, making him change his mind. Then I'll go with you. Thank you. The next day, Wen Ruomian disguised herself as a worker and infiltrated to scout the enemy's situation. She carefully looked at the data sheet in her hand. Lu Jihan's cargo item number. Wen Ruomian walked slowly, finally stopping in front of Spot. This should be it. Looking at the mountain of containers piled up in the warehouse, she frowned in thought. Is this it? Wen Ruomian's fingers slid across a container when she suddenly noticed an anomaly. Based on the number inside, she couldn't help but be suspicious. The numbers for this type of cargo are all 8 digits. Why does this one only have 6? Wen Ruomian's hand slowly took out her phone from her pocket. After comparing it with the parameters on her phone, she came to a conclusion. This isn't right. The numbers on these goods don't match the ones on the customs report. There's definitely a problem. Wen Ruomian secretly followed the worker's every move from behind. It's always guarded. I can't get close to see. Her mind raced, trying to find a solution. What should I do? Just then, a sound suddenly rang out, catching the worker's attention. The man narrowed his eyes, staring intently in the direction of the sound, and shouted, Who's there? 2 warehouse workers hurried over, asking loudly, What's wrong? What happened? Taking this opportunity, Wen Ruomian approached the shelves and reached into her pocket for something. Meanwhile, another worker answered the person who asked, I don't know either. Hurry up and clean up, or the boss will yell at us. Quickly, her hand had already swiftly attached a small tracker to the item. The worker's voice continued, All right, everyone get back to work. Wen Ruomian realized someone was coming back and became secretly vigilant. The 2 warehouse workers were surprised to see her, and one of them immediately questioned, Who are you? He asked suspiciously, Are you new here? Wen Ruomian replied calmly, I'm a new customs broker, here to check the data for this shipment. I found that the numbering for this shipment is problematic and need to report it to my superior. The worker said sternly, Who told you to check this? His hand quickly grabbed her arm, pulling her outwards. The warehouse worker grabbed Wen Ruomian and warned, You can't touch this shipment. If you know what's good for you, leave quickly. She struggled, Let go of me. I'm doing my job. What are you doing? He pointed at Wen Ruomian and said loudly, "You're new? I think you're here to steal something. Grab her." Wen Ruomian exclaimed, "What?" After he spoke, the warehouse worker immediately grabbed her wrist. She feigned, "I don't know what you're talking about." His voice was full of threat. "Stop pretending. You're coming with me to the manager's office." In an instant, Wen Ruomian twisted her wrist to gain control of him. She twisted the warehouse worker's arm with such force that the sound of the joint dislocating was clearly audible, followed by a miserable scream. Caught off guard, he cried out in pain. Before he could recover, the warehouse employee was kneed in the groin by Roman. He let out a pained howl, trembling all over. The warehouse employee clutched his vital parts and yelled, "Someone, there's a thief!" As Roman ran, she thought to herself, "I have to get out of here fast." The scene instantly descended into chaos as other warehouse employees immediately gave chase, shouting stop. They were in hot pursuit, and it looked like she had nowhere to run. Soon, Roman saw Yingcong waiting for her on a jet ski by the boat dock. Her hand quickly grabbed the railing, and then Roman leaped on behind him, urging anxiously, "Go." Yingcong looked at her and replied with a smile, "Yes, ma'am." Seeing the jet ski speed away and disappear, the warehouse employees cursed in frustration. Damn it. Helpless, they stood fuming at the port, watching for a long time without finding any way to pursue, all of them panting. Roman looked back and thought gleefully, "Lu Zui, you really are up to something." As Yingcong drove the jet ski with both of them on it, he asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Roman thought, "Of course I'm going to investigate, and quickly." But then she heard Yingcong continue, "As long as you're okay, we can investigate slowly later." She replied softly, "I'm fine. It's a shame I didn't see what was inside." Roman held something up and said, "Although I didn't see what was inside, I planted a tracker. As long as the shipment is exported, I'll be able to find out what's in it." In her hand was a tracker controller, her voice excited as she put her knowledge to use. "Luckily, it was a tracker that helped me find you last time. I just checked. The export destination for this shipment is Singapore, so we can follow up at any time." Yingcong praised her happily. "That's also because you're exceptionally clever." Roman accepted it without any shyness, of course. The scene changes, and the North City clubhouse appears before them. In the office, Yingcong sat in the boss's chair, listening to everyone's opinions. Suddenly, a cane struck the floor heavily, making a loud thud. A middle-aged man questioned excitedly, "Young Master Nie, North City has been closed for 2 months. What's the difference between that and going out of business?" He was Li Chung, a shareholder of North City. Zhang Duan, the manager of North City's food and beverage department, also agreed, but didn't dare to speak up. Li Chung said, loudly in anger, "I was against that little brat becoming the general manager from start. Now look, all my good friends have gone to Golden Top Gate." Yingcong replied calmly, "If any shareholders wish to withdraw their shares now, I can transfer the money immediately." He looked at the pen in his hand, which was engraved with the emblem of a soaring eagle, and his voice rang out, "Have you ever seen a fledgling?" His gaze was firm as he looked directly at the people opposite him and said meaningfully, "When it's learning to fly, it always has to fall a few times before it can. Master the air currents and soar through the sky." Li Chung was unconvinced and immediately retorted, "Back when you were young and wanted to start your own business, if I hadn't respected your father." Before he could finish, he saw Yingcong's hand slam heavily on the table. The action stunned him. He reminded him coldly, "Director Li, you made quite a bit of money over the years, haven't you? I've helped you multiply your assets by at least 100-fold. It's time for you to enjoy your retirement." Li Chung felt insulted and was furious inside, but he still hurried to explain, "Young Master Nie, we're not doubting your ability. It's just that Roman is a woman, after all, and we..." Listening from the side, Zhang Duan also boldly chimed in, "That's right, we have families to support too, and now we don't even know if North City can continue to operate. Are we all supposed to live on air?" His voice rang out, "In any case, you can't make us pay the price just for a woman, can you?" Yingcong silently and slowly stood up. He said slowly, "Roman has been the general manager of North City for 2 years. He looked at the 2 men before him and continued, and has tripled the operating profit." After speaking, he concluded in a deep voice, "I think this woman you speak of is more capable than any man present here." Li Chung was still not convinced. Then how is she going to handle the matter of North City's closure? Yingcong pointed to a stack of documents on the table and suggested, "Right now, each of you has a share transfer agreement in hand. If you want to withdraw your shares, sign it, and the agreement will take effect immediately. If you still believe in me, I can also have North City reopen. Of course, on the condition that Roman remains the general manager. Looking at the words share transfer agreement on the contract, Li Cheng silently furrowed his brow. Zhang Duan could no longer say a word, only sighing softly. After a moment of consideration, Li Cheng spoke. Young Master Nie, we are businessmen. It's foolish not to make money. Since you've put it that way, I'll trust you one more time. Yingcong replied, I understand. Before he and Zhang Duan left, he also guaranteed North City will definitely reopen. The two men said in low voices, all right. Yingcong silently looked down at the eagle emblem on his pen. Meanwhile, Roman stood alone outside on the office balcony, thinking quietly. Suddenly, someone draped a jacket over her shoulders. It was Yingcong. He asked softly, what are you thinking about? Roman smiled and replied, they're right. Maybe I'm not capable of running North City. Yingcong's hand tugged at the jacket, wrapping her up completely. He walked closer to Roman and comforted her. Mian, you're too kind. I didn't expect Luzi to use such a sinister trick involving underage girls. If there's anything you're doing wrong, it's that you always shoulder everything alone and don't want me to help with anything. She hesitated, but I don't want to make things difficult for you. Yingcong looked at her gently and chuckled. Difficult? Nothing has been able to stump me yet. Guess what's in Luzi's shipment? He handed his phone to Roman. See what your tracker has located. Looking at the phone screen in front of her, she cried out in surprise, this is... The more Roman looked, the more her brow furrowed, but her eyes lit up. Yingcong's voice rang out. Your tracker did a great job. It's located the destination. She was puzzled. Strange. The destination for this shipment is Singapore. So why is it being unloaded in Myanmar? Yingcong explained, Myanmar, it's a lawless zone. Roman came to a sudden realization and exclaimed, no wonder, it's the perfect place to trade goods. The scene changes, and someone suddenly discovers something strange among the cargo. A surprised voice immediately shouts, huh? Two of Luzi's men exchanged a look. One of them picked it up to examine it. What's this? The other replied, this is bad. It looks like a tracker. Report to the boss, quickly. The tracker in his hand was quickly taken away. A moment later, in the office, a subordinate cautiously reported to Luzi, boss, the item was found inside the cargo rack. Hearing this, he became alert. A tracker? Is it the police? The other person replied, it doesn't look like it. There's another thing. Last time at the dock, a woman wanted to open the crates for inspection. We suspect it's the same group. Luzi immediately shot back, a woman? What did she look like? The subordinate thought for a moment, then answered awkwardly, I didn't get a clear look, but she's skilled. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of a furious slap on the table was heard. Luzi berated them loudly, scaring the two subordinates into silence. I don't care who it is, anyone who dares to get in the way of my fortune. I'll make sure they die without a burial place. A subordinate approached and showed him photos collected on a tablet. It's her. Luzi looked at Roman's photo on the screen as the subordinate's voice recounted. It's this woman. She looks delicate, but I didn't expect her to be so decisive. Our men were completely outsmarted by her. Hateful. After observing for a long time, Luzi frowned, thinking, that figure. His heart skipped a beat, and his eyes filled with extreme terror. Luzi did his best to suppress his anger, then ordered his subordinate, keep a close watch on Wen Ruomian and North City, and that Yingcong. The subordinate immediately replied, yes, sir. His expression grew dark, his voice cold. If she has the guts, let her come. I'll make sure she never returns. The scene changes. Roman was lying lazily on the desk, thinking to herself, I'll have Yingcong keep an eye on the shipments tracking first. She muttered to herself, North City is closed. Even if it reopens, it will be greatly affected. Yingcong pushed the door open and entered with 2 glasses of water. You can take this time to rest well and also think of new methods for North City's future. Seeing him, she suggested, Yingcong, but North City's business is still too traditional. I want to make it a bit more special. Yingcong gently placed a glass of water on the table, his voice ringing out, tell me more. Roman looked at the plan on her phone and showed it to him excitedly. North City has been operating for many years, and its clients are all high-end. Because the barrier to entry is too high, ordinary people can't get in at all. The rich want to make money in a place like this, and only real spending power can turn North City into a true city that never sleeps. After listening, he asked softly, Do you have a direction already? Roman didn't answer immediately, instead carefully scrolling through the ideas she had saved. Then she placed her phone in front of Yingcong. I want to turn it into a cultural symbol, a place where the rich are willing to come to make deals and ordinary people can come to earn and spend money. A place that can make many people's dreams come true. He took the phone, looked at it carefully for a moment, and praised, "It's a great idea, but I'm afraid it will be difficult for these two types of people to mix." Roman was quite surprised by Yingcong's attitude, so she asked tentatively, "So you think the closure might be an opportunity to break down this barrier?" He glanced at her, then said gently, "No matter what you do, I will support you fully. You don't have to worry about funding." Hugging him, Roman cheered, "Really? Yingcong, I will definitely give you back a different North City." He teased, "You're only this enthusiastic at times like this." She said shyly, "No, I'm not." Yingcong added, "By the way, you need to be careful of Lu Jihan these next few days. He has likely already discovered your tracker, so he'll be more on guard." The scene changes, and an office door appears. A subordinate walks in with a stack of files and reports. "Boss Lu, the information you wanted is all here." His voice rang out, "Come in, put it on the table." The subordinate replied, "Yes, sir." Lu Jihan opened the file and began to read it carefully. He thought to himself, opening North City at 18. Only a dog would believe such a ridiculous resume. The subordinate hesitated and said, "Boss Lu, we can't find any information on Nie Yingcong." Lu Jihan slammed the file in his hand shut with a smack and cursed, "Useless. Is he not from his planet? How can you not find anything?" He slammed his palm on a pile of photos on the table and hissed. And this person, pointing to a photo of Roman, Lu Jihan's voice rang out, "You tell me, can there be two people in this world who look exactly the same?" Looking at his subordinate, who had his head bowed, he demanded, "Tell me, can the dead be resurrected?" The subordinate didn't know how to answer for a moment, then said timidly after a while, "Boss Lu, I'll send more people to investigate." Lu Jihan's hand suddenly slammed a photo into his face. While re-examining the file carefully, he waved his hand and commanded coldly, "Go now." The subordinate bowed his head and said, "Yes, I'll go check for results right away." The night sky outside was pitch black, and the rain was pouring down. In the heavy rain, a scene of two men fighting suddenly appeared on the road. One man held the other down tightly, shouting, "You gambling addict, if you don't pay up tonight, I'll chop off one of your hands." The man being restrained seemed to have been beaten badly, his face red and swollen in several places. He pleaded in pain, "Give me a little more time. 3 days. No, 7 days. I'll definitely pay you back half." A gloomy face appeared in the rain, a cigarette dangling from his mouth. It was Lu Jihan's subordinate. He said coldly, "Perhaps." The subordinate's hand, holding the cigarette, his voice continued slowly, "You won't have to pay it back." The scene changes. In the office, Roman sat in Yingcong's chair while he stood beside her. She pointed at the design plans and then explained in detail, "The main stage must be placed here so people can see it as soon as they walk in. But if the entrance gets congested, it will be difficult to manage." Her finger pointed to a spot on the design plan, and Yingcong's voice rang out, "We can't have just one entrance. North City is a city. It can have entrances from all 4 directions." Roman understood. "We can add 2 more side doors." He looked at her and continued, "This not only improves the main section, but also involves changes to the entrance. It's a significant amount of work." She added, "But this way, not only will the customer experience be better, but we can also accommodate more people and management will be more convenient. Even fire safety will be guaranteed." Yingcong was surprised. "Mian, you've even thought about fire safety." Roman said with concern, "I'm just afraid you'll be under too much pressure." He replied gently, "Do whatever you want to do." Her voice was questioning, "But with such a large investment and reopening again, will the old shareholders have any objections?" As they spoke, a strand of Roman's hair inadvertently brushed against the back of Yingcong's hand. The moment made him lose his focus. He quickly pulled his hand back and replied, "At worst, they can withdraw their shares. I've long been tired of them sucking our blood." Roman asked hesitantly, "Are you sure?" Yingcong immediately affirmed, "I'm very sure. You make a budget proposal, and I'll figure out a way." She made a rough calculation and then gave a relatively accurate figure. The renovations might cost 150 million. He snatched the calculator from Roman's hand and agreed readily. no problem. She was still a little worried, but the shareholders might not agree. Yingcong turned the chair to face Roman and said, "Do we need the shareholders' money? I'll invest the full amount. This 150 million, I'm willing to spend it for you." Roman grabbed his tie, pulled him closer, and gently kissed him on the cheek. Yingcong, thank you for your trust." Yingcong's hand immediately wrapped around her neck. He leaned down and gently kissed Roman's lips. She wrapped her arms around Yingcong's neck and then responded passionately. The two kissed, lost in the moment. At the height of their passion, he suddenly stopped, pulling away from Roman's lips. Sorry. The two separated. Yingcong calmly picked up the design plans, looked at them, and then said, "General Manager 1, if you keep seducing me like this, I don't have that much self-control." Seeing his expression, she cursed, "Yingcong, are you teasing me?" He didn't answer, but quickly turned his back and then made an excuse. "I'm taking the blueprints to show a friend of mine, an architect from abroad." Roman sensed something was off and asked angrily, "What are you holding back a laugh for?" She suddenly stopped because she saw that all the buttons on her shirt had been undone by him, revealing the t-shirt with a yellow duckling print underneath. Roman's embarrassed explanation immediately echoed through the North City general manager's office. It was a free gift with a purchase. An hour later, she was lying on the desk, her eyes closed, muttering, "The stage lighting can't use cold lights." Yingcong gently stroked her hair, still so strong-willed. Roman cursed softly, "Yingcong, you're so annoying." In the quiet space, his gentle voice rang out, "Then I'll be a little more annoying and take you home." Afterwards, the renovation and reconstruction of North City began swiftly. Roman and Yingcong supervised together, looking carefully at the design plans. Roman said, "The thickness of the soundproof rooms on the second floor needs to be the thickest." Before, the volume of the wine glasses was shaking. Yingcong leaned down, testing it by gesturing on the floor with his hand. "General Manager, one has even calculated the resonance frequency of the wine glasses." She said, "No need to calculate, it's experience." Suddenly, he paused slightly because he felt something was wrong behind him. The moment he noticed, his eyes filled with panic. Yingcong quickly shouted, "Watch out." As soon as the words left his mouth, he immediately rushed over, shielding Roman completely in his arms. A large piece of the ceiling fell from above. It crashed heavily onto Yingcong's back. The incident was so sudden that Roman was also extremely panicked. She and Yingcong's bodies hit the ground with a thud. Her head spun, and her vision became blurry. Yingcong quickly struggled to get up and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Seeing the person in front of her clearly, Roman also became worried at once, asking him loudly, "Nie Yingcong, are you okay?" Not seeing her answer his question, Yingcong became even more flustered. "Are you hurt?" Not seeing him answer, she quickly grabbed his hand, which was checking her head, and cried out anxiously, "Nie Yingcong." Roman's voice became urgent. "I'm asking you a question." Seeing her worried look, Yingcong paused slightly. A nearby worker hurried over and asked in alarm, "General Manager 1, young Master Nie, are you two all right?" Yingcong commanded loudly, "All construction is suspended. Check for all safety hazards." The worker hurried to reply, "Yes, sir." Roman's hand tightly gripped his tie, pulling him back and not letting him leave. She looked at him and ordered, "Go to the office. I'll check you over." In the office, the first aid kit was placed heavily on the table. Yingcong sat to the side and said softly, "You came back so quickly." Roman didn't answer, but quickly opened the first aid kit and ordered, "Turn around." She walked over and took off his jacket for him. Yingcong complained, "Making me take off my clothes. Can't you be a little gentler?" Roman chided softly, "Stop fooling around. Turn around and let me check." The white shirt was soon pulled down by Roman, revealing his sturdy shoulders. Seeing her flustered expression, Yingcong teased, "Ma'am, can't you be a little gentler when taking off a man's clothes?" The moment Roman saw his back, she exclaimed, "You're bleeding." In front of her, a long, bleeding scratch appeared on Yingcong's broad back. Roman's brow furrowed, her eyes filled with heartache. She treated him carefully, gently applying disinfectant to the wound. "You fool, who told you to rush out like that?" Yingcong understood the worry in her heart and comforted her. "I'm fine. It's just a flesh wound." Roman leaned closer to his back, blowing gently to soothe the wound. This unintentional action made Yingcong freeze. Seeing that he was acting a bit strange, she quickly asked, "Does it hurt a lot?" Yingcong sniffled, his cheeks flushing red, and answered awkwardly, "It doesn't hurt. It's just a little hot down there." Now it was Roman's turn to be stunned. She stammered, "Even you? I was just trying to make it not hurt." Yingcong confessed, "In front of you, my self-control isn't strong enough." In the faint morning light, the massive North City clubhouse building came into view. The man who had been hounded for debts by Luzi's subordinate in the rain was now holding a glass of water. Greeting Roman happily, "General Manager 1, have some water." He said specifically, "It's sparkling water that just arrived, have a taste." Roman unsuspectingly reached out to take it. "Uncle, you actually knew I like sparkling water." He frowned slightly, his eyes looking at her with a hint of helplessness as she brought the water to her lips and answered awkwardly, I also asked around to find out." After Roman finished drinking, she said happily, "Thanks, it's delicious." Taking advantage of the moment, she turned away to answer a call. "Have they arrived? Okay, I'm going out to inspect the goods now." The uncle secretly picked up the cup and carefully placed it into a small sample bag. After he was done, he thought with a trembling heart, "I'm sorry, General Manager 1, I was forced to do this." The cup was quickly taken to a lab for DNA analysis. Luzi leaned against the glass partition between the lab and the outer space, his expression thoughtful. He waited, smoking silently. Soon, the test results were out, and the report was quickly brought out. Luzi calmly reached out and took the results sheet. He looked at it carefully and sneered, "A Roman." Looking at the words DNA match rate 99.99%, paternity confirmed, Luzi sighed to himself, "You really are Lu Jihan." His hand immediately crumpled the results sheet into a ball. Looking at the crumpled paper in his hand, Luzi's expression grew even darker. "Killing my daughter for the insurance money. I don't regret it. If it weren't for that money back then, I would have been finished. But I never expected that you didn't actually die." He asked himself softly, "Are you back for revenge?" Luzi hissed out the familiar name through gritted teeth. "Lu Jihan." After regaining his composure, he announced, "Then I'll just have to kill you one more time." Luzi took a call, and the other end reported, "The goods have arrived at Pier 3. He replied, "Very good. Everything is under my control. Unload according to the plan." The scene changes. Luzi's cargo ship is docked at the port. In the dark of night, many containers are faintly visible on the deck. The subordinates who received the order reminded the others, as they worked, "Proceed according to the plan. Everyone hurry up." Everyone said in unison, "All right." Luzi's subordinate made a call to report. All the goods have been fitted with trackers, and the detonation devices are also installed. The person on the other end replied, "Good. Wait for the fish to take the bait." After everything was ready, the subordinate carefully supervised the containers being loaded onto the ship. Tonight, the North City clubhouse was unusually quiet. Roman was still working in the office, feeling an inexplicable sense of unease. The phone next to her suddenly chimed with a notification. Looking at the screen, she realized that the tracker she had previously planted on Luzi's cargo had suddenly reactivated. Roman couldn't help but wonder, why does the tracker suddenly have a signal again? Just then, someone turned the doorknob to open the door, making a click sound. Yingcong walked in quickly with some documents. "Luzi has a shipment clearing customs in the next few days." Roman asked in surprise, "When? Where?" He handed her the documents and said, "Originally, this shipment was supposed to dock at Chidro Port at the end of the month, but now it's been rerouted to the nearby Ludi Island seaport." Roman said, "Then there's definitely something wrong with this shipment." She reached for the phone on the table. Then, Roman immediately made a call. "Sister Ruoshi, I want to leave for Ludi Island right away." The other person replied, "All right." Yingcong said worriedly, "You can't go alone." But he couldn't go this time. He had to resolve North City's funding issue that day. She quickly reassured him, "Yingcong, I'll be fine." To put him at ease, Roman added, "I'll be fully prepared this time and won't let him get away." Yingcong still felt uneasy and urged loudly, "And I have a feeling this might be a trap. You can wait for the next time." Suddenly, a knock on the door startled them both. Ruoshi walked in and said, "I've found out exactly where the goods are being imported, Pier 3. Roman asked curiously, "What did they declare it as?" She handed her a document and then continued to report, "They declared it as mechanical equipment, but I learned through a client in North City that basically no one ordered it." Ruoshi recounted a suspicious detail. The latest customs declaration for this shipment clearly states it's transporting mechanical equipment. But I checked the customs records, and there's basically no declaration for this shipment. Hearing this, Roman thought, mechanical equipment, that's a good excuse for Luzi. Her voice rang out, proposing, "Sister Ruoshi, I want you to come with me to Ludi Island." She immediately agreed. "No problem. I'm familiar with that place. Nie Yingcong gently instructed Ruoshi, you two must be careful. Retreat immediately if anything seems wrong. Don't force it. She understood his concern for this trip and said reassuringly, don't worry, I grew up at Liddy Island Seaport. I couldn't get lost even with my eyes closed. Faced with their determination, Yingcong said, all right, but you two must stay in contact at all times. Retreat immediately if anything seems wrong. Don't force it. On the main road, a black car sped forward. As Ruoshi drove, she remarked, Little Mian, you're showing me young Master Nie's blind spot when he's in love. It's terrifying. Roman laughed happily. It's not as scary as you make it sound. He's just too worried about me. After thinking for a moment, she suddenly spoke. Sister Ruoshi, when we get to the pier, I'll go find the goods first. You help me keep an eye on Luzui. She replied softly, all right. Soon, the pier at Liddy Island appeared before them. Roman put on her glasses and earpiece, then got out of the car. Ruoshi reminded her carefully, you must be careful. She gave a thumbs up and replied, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. In the darkness, Roman moved quickly towards the container yard. A day later, the two of them came here again, this time equipped with diving gear. As Roman put on her wetsuit, she explained, Sister Ruoshi, we'll go from underwater. It'll be more covert this way. Ruoshi said softly, Little Mian, I'm ready. Underwater, the two of them quietly approached Luzui's cargo ship. After the guards on the ship finished their checks, they urged each other, let's go. Roman and Ruoshi quickly moved alongside the ship. Then they climbed aboard. Once on the ship, Roman moved inward alone, holding a flashlight. After searching for a while, she seemed to have discovered something. This must be it, she thought, standing before shipment. Lu Jihan carefully assessed and calculated, determined to see what it was. She quickly pried open a crate with a crowbar, and upon seeing its contents, Lu Jihan gasped in shock. Guns. A complex look flickered in her eyes. Luzui was smuggling weapons. No wonder Lu Jihan had sent that message to Yingcong. It read, he's a dead man. She stared silently at the screen, waiting for a reply. Soon, he messaged back, the content extremely urgent. Retreat immediately. Lu Jihan put the phone in her pocket and quickly stood up. Just as she was about to leave, she saw two workers walking over, chatting. The boss said we have to be on high alert with this shipment or we'll all be out of job. You guys take turns on duty tonight. Don't let anyone get near. Got it. When is it ever not important? One of them voiced that let's move these few barrels out first. It seems this isn't his first time doing this, Lu Jihan thought. She sent a message to Ruoshi. Sister Ruoshi, retreat. Just then, a worker appeared out of nowhere, shining a flashlight on Lu Jihan and shouting loudly. Who are you? Hearing the shout, she froze, breaking out in a nervous cold sweat. Lu Jihan reached in her pocket and gently pulled out a small knife. In a flash, she spun around and pressed the knife to the worker's neck, threatening loudly, not a sound, or you'll be silent forever. Ambushed, he was scared out of his wits, and hearing him beg, don't kill me, Lu Jihan decisively brought the side of her hand down hard on the back of his neck. Without so much as a grunt, he collapsed. She grabbed his collar and dragged him to a hidden corner. Lu Jihan left quickly, thinking, there's not much time, I have to meet up with Sister Ruoshi. Ruoshi, who had been waiting outside for a long time, grew anxious. Why isn't Mian out yet? Did something happen? Suddenly, she heard footsteps and thought, she's here. But listening again, the footsteps were very different. Her eyes shot open as she exclaimed, that's not right. Stepping out from her hiding spot, Ruoshi saw the person waiting for her and gasped softly, big trouble. Luzui chuckled, asking in an icy voice, didn't expect this, did you? He said smugly, watching you rats scurry around, I almost couldn't bear to interrupt. Ruoshi cursed angrily, you're the rat. Luzui ordered loudly, seize her. Immediately, two men moved forward and restrained her. She struggled, but couldn't escape. Ruoshi yelled, what do you think you're doing? Let me go. Luzui replied contemptuously, what do I think I'm doing? I should be the one asking you that. He said cheerfully, but it doesn't matter, because when Lu Jihan gets here, you can both be on your way together. At that moment, Lu Jihan was darting like lightning between rows of containers. As she ran, she worried, why hasn't Sister Ruoshi messaged me back? Did something happen? Suddenly, Lu Jihan stopped in her tracks, asking in confusion, is that? When she saw Ruoshi captured by Luzui, her eyes gradually filled with panic. She hid beside a container, muttering to herself, this is bad. Seeing Ruoshi being held, Lu Jihan cried out anxiously in her heart, Sister Ruoshi, Lu Ji tilted his head slightly, smirking. Stop hiding. She heard his voice ring out. I know you're here. Her steps were resolute as she walked out. Lu Jihan asked coldly, Lu Ji, what do you want? She suggested frankly, whatever you want, we can discuss it. Let her go first. Lu Ji saw clearly who it was and called out her name coldly. Lu Jihan. He raised an eyebrow, taunting, and why should I listen to you? Seeing Lu Jihan didn't answer, Lu Ji's voice dripped with sarcasm. Or perhaps, I should call you my dear daughter, Lu Jihan. Ruomian shouted a warning. Mian, don't worry about me. Go. Lu Jihan said slowly. Since you already know, then trade me for her. You let her go. She proposed earnestly. Then, looking straight at the man opposite her, Lu Jihan said softly, is that a worthy trade? At this, Lu Ji suddenly began to applaud, sarcastically, clap, clap, clap. He raised his eyebrows, his eyes mocking her derisively. Such deep sisterly love, it's enough to make me cry. In that case, I'll grant you your wish. At this, Lu Ji turned his gaze and ordered the men behind him. Men, seize Lu Jihan first. They responded in unison, understood. Seeing Lu Jihan captured, Ruomian cried out in alarm. Mian. No, I won't leave you behind. But she calmly reassured her. It's okay, Sister Ruomian. Lu Jihan smiled apologetically. I'm the one who brought you here. I have to be responsible. Ruomian's eyes reddened as she shook her head in denial. Mian, you fool. I'm the one who's supposed to ensure your safety. But the next second, upon hearing Lu Ji's order, take them both away, Lu Jian's eyes widened in horror. She craned her neck and shrieked, Lu Ji, you went back on your word. But he was unmoved, his eyes twisting with a calm placidity as he retorted, did I promise to let her go? Use your brain, Lu Jihan. Since I can capture two people, why would I let one go and have her run back to report me? I'm not an idiot. At this, Lu Ji shook his head in disappointment and sighed. It's strange, really. You have half of my blood in you, but you didn't even inherit half of my intelligence. Hearing this, Lu Jihan retorted with a cold laugh. Half my blood? I have nothing to do with a murderer like you. She spat out through gritted teeth. Don't flatter yourself. Lu Ji didn't get angry, merely looking at her indifferently. All right, then a murderer like me. He narrowed his eyes grimly and continued. We'll just have to let you die again today. With that, Lu Ji also turned to leave. Take them away. Behind him, Lu Jihan was still shouting. Do you think I'm afraid to die? She clenched her jaw, yelling out her declaration with all her might. Lu Jihan is already dead. A short while later, both Lu Jihan and Ruomian were taken into a car. Her hands tied tightly. Ruomian looked apologetically at Lu Jihan beside her. Mian, I'm sorry you got dragged into this because of me. But she just shook her head gently to comfort her. It's not your fault. Lu Ji had already set a trap. We just fell into his plan. Lu Jihan twisted her bound hands again, suggesting in a hushed, low voice, anyway, we have to find a way to escape from here now. See if there's a wrench or some other hard object around. Ruomian nodded as well, looking around. Okay. Lu Jihan had another flash of inspiration and looked down under the car seat. Let's see if there are any repair tools under the seats. As she looked down, she saw a mysterious object placed neatly under the seat. Lu Jian's eyes widened as she guessed in her mind. Is this? It wasn't until she realized what it was that she exclaimed in shock. Oh no. Ruomian, there's a bomb under the seat. Hearing this, Ruomian also screamed in terror. What? A moment later, both of them lifted their feet with all their might, trying to kick the car door open to escape. Lu Jihan and Ruomian kicked desperately at the car door, their eyes wide with fury as they cursed. That bastard Lu Ji! Let us out! Lu Jihan stared out the window with wide eyes, shouting, this is murder! Let us out now! At this moment, the car window rolled down, and Lu Ji stood outside, leisurely smoking a cigarette. Stop struggling, it's useless. Lu Jihan saw his face and yelled in fury, Lu Ji! She slumped back in her seat, exhausted, asking in disbelief, are you really going to go this far? Lu Ji continued to smoke calmly, shrugging slowly in affirmation. Of course. I've gone to great lengths to clear out those who stand in the way of my fortune. First, I use the guns as bait to lure you here, and then I'll dispose of the bait and you along with it. He slowly exhaled a puff of smoke, his eyes sinister and cunning, as he continued to narrate the plan. Next, I'll pin the loss of my seafood shipment on you people from North City. It's all so time-consuming and troublesome, but luckily, my precious contraband was moved long ago. Listening to all this, Luo Mian's lips trembled as she hissed, "Luzri, you're truly vicious." Luzi heard this as if it were a joke and let out a sarcastic chuckle. "Ha, I'm vicious." He extinguished his cigarette and suddenly lowered his voice, asking, "Do you know the other reason why I want you to disappear?" Luzi nodded, sighing in appreciation. "You're right. People often say even a vicious tiger won't eat its own cubs." He slowly pressed the cigarette but against the side of the car, asking again in a low, whimpering voice, "Then why am I so cruel to my own daughter?" Luzi released his hand, letting the cigarette but fall. His voice was casual, yet it clearly delivered a shocking truth. "Because you were never my biological daughter." Luo Mian froze, her eyes wide with shock, as she listened to him explain more clearly, "You are the child of your mother and my older brother." The corners of her lips trembled violently, her eyes wide with disbelief. "What are you talking about?" Luzi was still in the mood to laugh caustically, repeating, "You heard me right. Your mother betrayed me and had an affair with my brother. So from the day you were born, I wanted to strangle you." He shook his head in disappointment, his voice filled with emotion. "If your mother hadn't stopped me, you would have died countless times." Luzi seemed to be grinding his teeth, his eyes filled with a chilling coldness as he declared, "My brother, oh no, your biological father, ruined my life, so I'm going to make him and his only flesh and blood. You die. Today is the anniversary of your death." After explaining everything, he also let out a sigh of relief. "All right, you know everything you need to know." Luzi didn't linger, leaving Luo Mian in the car as he turned to leave. "I've been merciful enough, telling you everything to let you die knowing the truth." He walked away slowly, his voice still echoing his final farewell. "Goodbye, my dear daughter. I hope you have fun in hell." Ruosher also called out to her anxiously, "Mian, Mian." But Luo Mian was still lost in shock, forcing her to shout again, "Mian, Mian." Seeing she had come to her senses, Ruosher suggested earnestly, "Try the feather necklace around my neck. It has a sharp point." Luo Mian followed blankly. "Oh, okay." She quickly used her teeth to pull the necklace from Ruosher's neck and used it to cut the ropes binding her. The sharp point on the necklace sliced through the thick ropes binding Luo Mian. After freeing herself, she quickly turned to help Ruosher. "Okay, Ruosher, I'll untie you." She turned around and comforted her softly. "It's okay, Mian, Mian. Don't panic. We'll definitely get out." They quickly finished untying the ropes. Ruosher observed for a moment, then announced in alarm, "It's no use. Mian, Mian. The central control panel is broken. The car locks won't open at all." Luo Mian observed the windows and also shook her head, saying, "The windows are super bulletproof, too. We can't break them." Luzi is really ruthless. Ruosher immediately asked herself worriedly, "Then what do we do now?" Luo Mian muttered with a frown, "Let me think." After a moment, she had a sudden realization and thought of a way. "I've got it." Luo Mian quickly stood up and tried to remove the car seat. "Sister Ruosher, quick, help me take out the car seat." Ruosher was confused, At that moment, she called out again, "There's another way." They quickly removed the car seat, and then Ruosher was surprised again, as if she saw something. "What's this?" Luo Mian knelt on the floor of the car, exhaling as she explained, "Somewhere in the trunk, there must be an emergency release latch. If we pull it, we can open the trunk from the inside." Ruosher nodded in understanding after hearing this. "So that's how it is." She took a deep breath and announced, "I'll climb in and take a look." Ruosher also nodded, reminding her, "Okay, be careful." Just then, she suddenly glimpsed the bomb under the seat, displaying 5 minutes and 25 seconds. Ruosher hurried over to Luo Mian to tell her the news. "Mian, Mian, the bomb's countdown is down to 5 minutes." She remained calm, pulling at the latch, and replied, "Okay, almost there. I've found the latch." Luo Mian quickly pulled the latch hard, and the trunk popped open. She scrambled out quickly. "Great, Sister Ruosher, stay close." But turning back to see Ruosher's pained expression, Luo Mian asked worriedly, "Sister Ruosher, what's wrong?" She clutched her lower back helplessly and replied, "Sorry, my back. I think I pulled it just now." She hurried back to support Ruosher. "I'll help you, come on." But she quickly refused. "Don't worry about me. Run." The bomb slowly counted down, with 3 minutes and 15 seconds left. But Luo Mian was still determined not to abandon Ruosher. "Don't be silly. I already said I wouldn't leave you behind." She extended her hand again, urging in a rushed voice, "Quick, give me your hand." Hot tears welled up in Ruomian's eyes as she listened to Lu Jihan's loud declaration. "Stop wasting time. We're going to survive this together." Finally, she reached out and took her hand. "Okay." The bomb ticked down to 1 second, and finally, with a boom, the bomb exploded in the car. The two of them narrowly escaped. At this moment, Lu Jihan leaned against a tree, wiping away sweat and exclaiming, "Phew, that was close just by a hair." Ruomian, beside her, also nodded. "Yeah, almost really." She frowned, full of questions, and asked Lu Jihan about her method. How did you know to escape through the trunk?" She didn't hide it, scratching her cheek embarrassedly and saying with a smile, "Mian, Yingcong taught me that before." Just as she finished speaking, Yingcong also appeared suddenly. "Mian." Lu Jihan laughed happily. "Speak of the devil." He ran over quickly and hugged her tightly. "Are you okay?" Lu Jihan shook her head slightly, smiling as she replied, "I'm fine." Yingcong gently stroked her head, relieved. "As long as you're okay. You scared me to death." He pulled Lu Jihan into a tight embrace, his voice trembling with fear as he recounted, "I nearly turned the whole city upside down to find you. I was late, I'm sorry. Thank God you're okay. Otherwise She quickly grabbed his clothes to comfort him. "It's okay. I'm fine now. I'm all right." Yingcong still kept his eyes shut tightly, choking up, "Thank God. Yes, as long as you're okay. As long as you're okay." Later, Lu Jihan was taken to the hospital, where she met Ziping. Dr. Gu was holding the huge bouquet of flowers she had received, and Lu Jihan giggled, teasing, "I might as well open a flower shop." Hearing this, Ziping scratched his head in embarrassment. Sorry, besides flowers, I really couldn't think of what else to bring to see you, or whatever you want, I'll go buy it for you." She quickly waved her hands to refuse. "No need, I was just kidding. I love purple irises, thank you." He responded with a gentle smile. "You're welcome." Just then, Yingcong walked in slowly, covering his mouth and coughing a few times ahem. He walked in carrying a box and asked in a casual voice, "I'm not interrupting, am I?" Seeing him, Lu Jihan greeted him happily. "Yingcong, you're here." She took the box from Yingcong's hands, frowning as she reminded him sternly, "Can you not be so childish? Dr. Gu was just doing his rounds and dropped by to see me." Hearing this, he said sarcastically, "Oh." Then Zipeng politely raised a hand to greet Yingcong. "Hello." He smiled cordially, introducing himself leisurely. "Nice to meet you. I'm Gu Zipeng, a friend of Miss Wen's." Yingcong couldn't be bothered with Zipeng and turned to question Lu Jihan. "A friend? How come I've never heard you mention a friend like him?" She slowly opened the box and ate, responding, "I just didn't have time to introduce you." After speaking, Lu Jihan reached out and hooked her arm through his. She pulled Yingcong to her side and introduced him happily. "Dr. Gu, this is my boyfriend, Yingcong." "Yingcong, this is Dr. Gu Zipeng." Hearing this title, Zipeng awkwardly found an excuse to leave. So he's her boyfriend. I still have a few wards to check on, so I won't disturb you too." He waved goodbye to Lu Jihan and turned to leave. "Goodbye. I'll come see you again when I have the chance." She waved back happily. "Take care, Dr. Gu." After Zipeng left, Lu Jihan pleaded earnestly with Yingcong. "Yingcong, trust me." She smiled helplessly, her eyes sincere as she declared, "Right now, besides my revenge plan, no one is more important than you." Yingcong's heart softened, and he nodded in agreement. I know. After staying with Lu Jihan for a while, he also left. On his way, he noticed Zipeng following him. "Dr. Gu, is there something you need from me?" He didn't hide, but walked out from around the flower bushes to meet him. As expected of someone who's been around, "You found me so quickly. In that case, I won't beat around the bush." Zipeng no longer concealed himself, his eyes frank as he informed him, "I like Miss One, and I want to pursue her." Yingcong raised an eyebrow and asked, "Oh, and on what grounds?" His eyes instantly turned icy as he said firmly, "On the grounds that you're a murderer." Yingcong remained standing calmly, listening as Zipeng recounted the story in a cold voice. "Yingcong, don't think that just because you got into trouble in America, no one here knows about it. I'm telling you, I have a friend who was a paralegal on your case, and he showed me the files. I found that although you were acquitted at the time, there were many suspicious points in the file. After I overturned some of the initial evidence, I came to a new conclusion." At this, he took a deep breath and declared firmly, "That conclusion is, your father's illegitimate son, your half-brother, did not die by accident, but was murdered. And the one who killed him was you, Yingcong." Yingcong seemed to fall into a dream of the past, dreaming of unpleasant scoldings. "All you do all day is stay in your room and draw this garbage." As a child, he had secretly opened the door to his room, watching the white-haired woman painting inside, mixed with his father's every regretful word. Marrying a woman like you is so utterly boring. Little Yingcong hid behind the large gate, his eyes shining, calling out silently, Mom. Later, his father's illegitimate son from outside stood on a high platform, being solemnly introduced by his father. Allow me to introduce to everyone. This is the eldest son of the Nie family, the future legal heir of our Nie family. And in another corner, little Yingcong choked out, Mom. He trotted after his mother, who was leaving with a suitcase, crying as he asked, Mom, where are you going? Don't leave me alone. When love becomes a cage, hate gives one wings to fly away. In that dark and painful dream, a voice calling him to wake up echoed in his ears. Yingcong, Yingcong, Yingcong. Lu Jihan stood by Yingcong's side, asking worriedly, what's wrong with you? What name are you calling out? Were you having a nightmare? He gently rubbed his forehead and replied, oh, it's nothing. Yingcong rubbed his eyes wearily, explaining vaguely, I'm probably just a bit tired lately. She placed a hand on his shoulder and sighed softly. You've been taking care of me so much lately. That's why you're tired. You should go home and rest today, okay? Hearing this, he suddenly retorted, go home? Did the doctor say you can be discharged? Lu Jihan put her hands on her hips, nodding more clearly. The doctor said I can change my dressings at home. I'll go to the pharmacy to get some medicine now, then handle the discharge procedures. And then it's all settled. Just as she finished speaking, Yingcong suddenly reached out and grabbed her wrist tightly. He forcefully pulled Lu Jihan into his arms, hugging her tightly and cheering. That's great. I'm so happy to see you recovering so quickly. Suddenly embraced, Lu Jihan reminded him shyly, Hey, what are you doing? We're still in the hospital. But he was still only focused on exclaiming, I'm so happy. At this, Yingcong narrowed his eyes and probed, speaking of which, where are you planning to go back to? Lu Jihan touched her chin and answered seriously, back to North City, of course. They're short-staffed there. Hearing this, he stopped her without a second thought. No, you're still recovering. You can't be so tired. North City still has Chun Feng and the others. You just need to supervise remotely. She put her hands on his shoulders, wrapping them around his neck, frowning. How can I do that? I invested $150 million. I have to keep an eye on how the money is being spent. Yingcong sighed again, reminding her, then you don't have to live at North City. Lu Jihan retorted, puzzled. Then where will I live? He pursed his lips and thought for a moment, then casually gave an answer. My place, of course. Hearing this, she was taken aback. Huh? How can I do that? Yingcong forcefully picked her up, frowning unhappily as he asked, why not? We're a couple. He held Lu Jihan's hand tightly, pouting sadly as he said it again. Otherwise, we'll just live in the hospital together. This left her completely stunned. Afterwards, Yingcong grabbed Lu Jihan's hand and pulled her away. He decisively and quickly pulled her back to his home. Lu Jihan curled up in the water-filled bathtub, her cheeks flushed, calling out shyly, Yingcong. She emphasized softly and gently, I can wash myself. But he sat on the edge of the tub, retorting as he helped her wash, no, what if it gets infected and you have to go back to the hospital? At this, Yingcong casually and calmly reminded her, if you slide down any further, your wound will get wet. He cleared his throat and ordered sternly, lean up a bit. Lu Jihan called out softly, in the bathroom. She kept yelping, don't wash that part. Yingcong. A while later, Yingcong carried Lu Jihan out, chiding her dotingly. Just taking a bath has made your legs go weak, honestly. She was flushed with embarrassment and retorted, it's all your fault. He gently placed her on the bed, instructing her gently again, sit properly on the bed, don't move around, I'll go get the medicine. She also obeyed obediently. A moment later, Yingcong came in excitedly with the items, only to find the room empty. He didn't think much of it, but still took the items to another room. Seeing Lu Jihan working with her glasses on, he sighed, as I thought, you're here. Yingcong didn't say much, walked over and pressed the power button, causing her to shriek, hey. Lu Jihan pushed her glasses up in annoyance and scolded, what are you doing? I was almost done. Yingcong reminded her again, helplessly, I told you to rest well. Are you just letting my words go in one ear and out the other? Stand up and take your medicine. She angrily took the cup of water and drank it down. I didn't even have time to save. He stood beside her, patting her, but threatened, "If you don't listen, I'll cut off the internet at home." Lu Jihan put her hands on her hips and scolded angrily. "This is blatant tyranny. What kind of style is this? If you cut off the internet, how am I supposed to look up the renovation plan materials for North City?" But Yingcong still calmly walked away. "Your plan right now is to go to sleep." Lu Jihan could only obey. "Sleep it is. What's there to be afraid of?" A moment later, he saw her lying on her stomach on the bed and ordered, "Turn over and sleep." But Lu Jihan was still stubborn and wouldn't listen. "I won't, my butt hurts." Yingcong slowly sat on the edge of the bed and retorted, "Really?" Lu Jihan looked up to see him shirtless, hands on his hips, smirking. "Looks like I'll have to make it hurt a little more." She carefully looked at each of Yingcong's firm abs, and the more she looked, the more Lu Jihan's cheeks flushed with shyness. She quickly covered herself with the blanket, lay down properly, and closed her eyes to shoo him away. "All right, you can go now, boss Nye." Seeing this, Yingcong teased her, "Giving up so soon?" But Lu Jihan still stubbornly denied it. "No, I'm sleepy." He also let her be, picked up his clothes, and left, leaving a threat behind. "If you sneak into the study again, don't blame me for not being polite." Lu Jihan shouted with her eyes shut tight, "Got it, just go." Yingcong slowly walked out of the room, thinking with a sinister smile to himself, "Humph, don't be hasty. The big bad wolf's plan will have to wait until you've become a healthy little white rabbit." In the following days, he would walk into the room with his arms crossed, watching Lu Jihan drink her porridge seriously. As time went on, she also removed the bandages wrapped around her arm wound again. One day, Lu Jihan and Yingcong went for a run together. Late at night, on a deserted road outside North City, someone was soliciting an invitation. "I heard North City is reopening today. Let's go check it out." A man shook his head and refused. "What's there to see? We don't have the money to spend at a place like that." The person next to him explained with interest, "I heard that during their soft opening phase after the renovation, anyone can go in for a free experience." He whispered more clearly, "Except for the Black Tower on the top floor. That's a members-only area, serving only billionaires." The other person's eyes widened as he asked, "Billionaires? I wonder what it's like inside. I'm so curious." Inside North City, Lu Jihan had dressed herself up beautifully and said, "Everyone has worked hard these past few months." She wore a charming pink cheongsam, walking around and greeting people, "Welcome back to North City." A short while later, in the Black Tower of North City, an iris scan system for a blonde man sounded a prompt, "Identity confirmed. Welcome to No Man's Land." After it finished, he put on black glasses and walked in a certain direction. Many people also slowly scanned their way into a room. "Welcome everyone to the Black Tower of North City." In a large room, a figure stood in the center, and a beam of light shone down. That person was Ruomian. She was wearing a cheongsam and announced loudly, "Tonight, we will be auctioning secrets that even God wouldn't dare to record. You could buy a ticket to heaven or a VIP seat in hell." She let out a small laugh and began the show. Without further ado, let's start with the first item of tonight's auction. A blue diamond was brought up, accompanied by Ruomian's introduction. The Louis XIV blue diamond, the Cursed Kiss. She stood leisurely on the high platform, her crisp voice echoing. This diamond was once set in Queen Mary's crown. After being stolen from the Palace of Versailles, the 3 subsequent owners of this diamond all died unnatural deaths. As soon as she finished speaking, 3 dings rang out. Ruomian smiled and announced, "Congratulations to guest number 0035 for winning this treasure for 120 million. She nodded in satisfaction and switched to the next item. "All right, the next item." A strange book was brought up. Ruomian raised an eyebrow with great interest and introduced, "The next auction item is the Devil's Ledger, which records the overseas accounts of 327 politicians worldwide, 731 ordered assassination cases, and the global arms trade network." As soon as she finished, sure enough, guest number 012 pressed a button with a ding, lighting up a purple light, which surprised even Yingcong. Sitting in the corner, he raised his wine glass and asked, "What's the purple light?" Ruomian, sitting beside him, explained seriously, "It's a signal indicating that no matter how much others bid, that person will go 50 million higher." Yingcong slowly sipped his wine, his eyes deep in thought as he guessed, could the person who lit the light be Lu Zhe? Ruomian turned to observe everything, a meaningful smile playing on her lips. Whether it's him or not, he's finished. This statement puzzled him. Why? She crossed her arms on the table, analyzing with a thoughtful expression. If he wins the bid, with his current capital, he can't swallow this big cake. If it's not him, his trading channels will immediately be targeted by other forces, and making a fortune quietly will be impossible. After hearing everything, Yingcong nodded in sudden realization. Oh, that's how it is. He reached out and pinched her nose, praising, "You really are a clever little devil." But Ruomian pressed down on Yingcong's hand very seriously and explained earnestly, "Yingcong, after what happened last time, he will definitely shift his target to you. So I have to strike first to lure him out." He, however, just stroked her hair and smiled comfortingly. "Actually, you don't have to worry so much. If he wants to come, let him come. I'm ready to face him." She glared at him angrily, and I won't let him hurt the people around me again. Yingcong could only shrug in agreement. "All right, I'll listen to you this time." On the stage, Ruomian suddenly said mysteriously, "The next auction item is donated by a mysterious person." Her next words made Yingcong's eyes widen in surprise that a work by artist Chen Shuai. Ruomian was a little puzzled by his strange expression. Down below, Ruomian was still introducing loudly, "Bird in a cage." Yingcong carefully observed the painting being brought up, listening to her words. "This piece is an early painting by artist Chen." Ruomian pursed her lips, nodded slightly, and continued, "The bird cage in the painting is made of real gold." The crowd's gaze shifted to the feathers in the painting as she gave her detailed introduction. The feathers of the bird in the cage are woven from artist Chen's own hair, dyed a dark red like blood and tears. The mysterious person who donated this painting will donate all the auction proceeds to charity and will also make an additional donation of 80 million. At this moment, Yingcong, sitting above, suddenly erupted, questioning who brought this painting here. Ruomian beside him was also startled and explained in a low voice, "I don't know about this either." Ruomian might have added it at the last minute. "What's wrong?" He, however, sneered and repeated, added at the last minute. Yingcong's eyes were full of nostalgia as he answered through gritted teeth, "This painting is a work my mother made before she died." Ruomian was also shocked to hear this, and said apologetically, "I'm sorry." But he clenched his hands and said to himself, "I can't let someone else buy it." As soon as he finished speaking, Ruomian's announcement rang out. "A super VIP guest has bid 110 million once, 110 million twice, 100. The person who bid, was actually Nie Yingcong's biological father, Nie Yingcong." Yingcong looked at him blankly, shocked to his core, asking himself why he was here. His resentment surged, and he smashed his wine glass on the table through gritted teeth, the base shattering. Ruomian's voice echoed again. "Guest number 003 has triggered the price light." Over here, Ruomian also urged worriedly, Yingcong, what are you doing? You're bleeding, don't get agitated." But he continued to mutter through his teeth, "I absolutely cannot let him get this painting." At this moment, Nie Yingcong also reached out and pressed a button. Ruomian's surprised voice rang out as well. "The super VIP guest has also triggered the price light." Yingcong could hardly believe his ears, thinking in astonishment, what? He turned his head hastily, frowning as he asked Ruomian, "What on earth is going on? How can he trigger the light too?" She also looked completely bewildered, not understanding anything. "Did I don't know either." Just then, with a snap, a strange sound suddenly rang out. Standing on the stage, Ruomian raised her hand awkwardly and smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry, everyone. Due to a technical failure, the auction will be temporarily suspended." As soon as she finished speaking, Yingcong's face fell, and he rushed out. He charged right up to Ruomian and asked with a sharp gaze, "Where's that person?" She was taken aback by the question and blurted out, Yingcong pursed his lips, panting, and clarified, "The person who triggered the super VIP price light." Ruomian slowly rolled up the painting and said softly, "Oh, you mean that gentleman. He left a long time ago." She carefully handed the rolled-up painting to him, pursing her lips as she softly instructed. He also said he's not donating this painting anymore, nor is he auctioning it. Instead, he wants to leave it for someone who truly knows how to cherish it. Pausing for a moment, Ruomian lowered her voice and added he also specified that it should be left for Boss Nie. After handing the painting to Yingcong, she couldn't help but ask curiously, "So, does Boss Nie know that, Mr. Nie?" He just denied it coldly. "I don't know him. You can go back first." Ruomian didn't ask any more questions, nodding slightly and saying, "Okay. My apologies." A moment later, in the VIP room, a young man with glasses reported respectfully, Boss Lu, it seems our shipment is being watched. Hearing this, Lu Zhe furiously smashed things. Damn it. He quickly made a phone call and asked, "Hello, Boss Chun, how's that chick I gave you been lately?" "Ah, you've had your fun and think she's a bit boring now, right? No problem. I have another one for you. I guarantee you'll like her." At this moment, the sky outside was pitch black, accompanied by the terrifying rumble of thunder. A text message notification appeared on the phone screen. The goods have been discovered. The European side must be the work of Immigrant Lewis. After reading the message, Lu Zhe grunted in annoyance. He angrily slammed his phone on the table and cursed, "A bunch of idiots." Just then, there was a knock on the door outside. A female subordinate came in and announced, "Boss, we just received news that the warehouse next to ours is being inspected." Lu Zhe's face darkened as he asked for details. "By whom? Is it buying again?" The girl's expression was filled with worry as she explained, "No, it's Interpol." He sighed wearily and couldn't help but curse. Damn it, this batch of weapons is a real hot potato. Just then, ding, Lu Zhe received a text from Boss Chun. "Didn't you say you had a new chick? It's been so long and she's still not here. You're not tricking me, are you?" Not long after, in another spacious room, Ji was lying on the bed, happily watching her phone. This blogger is hilarious. Just then, a knock came from the door. She hurriedly called out, "Come in, come in." Lu Zhe also opened the door and walked in. "Xiaoyu, watching videos, are you?" Seeing him, Xiaoyu hurried over to, Dad, what's up?" "I've been very good recently. I haven't gone out on any more shopping sprees." Lu Zhe smiled lovingly and announced, "I know. So today Dad wants to take you out to pick a gift." Hearing this, she was both surprised and delighted, unable to believe it. "Wow, really? Is it for real?" A moment later, he brought Ji Yu to a place. She looked around and exclaimed, "Wow, the jewelry here is all so beautiful." A staff member quickly asked, "Are you here to pick up the pre-order necklace?" Lu Zhe also nodded in response, "Yes." The staff member said politely, "Please wait a moment." After a while, Ji Yu looked at a necklace and praised, "Wow, this emerald is so beautiful, and the craftsmanship is so exquisite." She couldn't help but ask softly, "This necklace must be very expensive, right? Are you really giving it to me, Dad?" Lu Zhe slowly picked up the necklace and put it on her, saying affirmatively, "Of course. Come, Dad will put it on for you." After putting it on, he smiled and praised, "It's beautiful. It suits you very well." Ji Yu also nodded happily and gratefully. I really love it. Thank you, Dad." But she suddenly thought of something, frowning suspiciously as she asked, "You're not trying to bribe me with this to make me go on a blind date with some rich heir you like, are you?" Lu Zhe laughed heartily and denied, "How could I? My daughter is worth much more than those guys." Ji Yu held up her index finger and promised with a serious face, "I'm telling you, in the future, I'm going to earn my own money. I'm not going to live off a man." Lu Zhe nodded in agreement, chatting with her continuously. Okay, our Xiaoyu is the most capable." "Of course. Dad, I feel like the sun rose from the west today." Time flew by. Ji Yu slowly opened her eyes and woke up. Ugh. She leaned against the headboard, holding her forehead and complaining in pain, "My head hurts so much." Yu looked around, confused, and asked herself, "This is a hotel? Wasn't I just having dinner with Dad? How did I end up here?" She stumbled out of bed, trying to find a way out. Ji tried to open the door with force, but it wouldn't budge. She cursed in frustration. "Damn it, the door won't open." Just then, a fat old man wrapped in a bath towel walked out, calling, "Aya, little beauty, you're awake." Yu immediately panicked, covering herself and screaming, "Who are you? What do you want?" She shouted loudly, threatening, "Don't come over here." "Do you know who I am?" The old man, that Boss Chun, rubbed his forehead and replied, "Of course I know. You're Lu Zhe's daughter." Ji rolled her eyes in anger and pointed straight at his face. "You know, and you still dare to come? Believe it or not, my dad will beat you to death." But Boss Chin still rushed over and grabbed her arm. "Don't worry, your dad won't beat me to death." He grinned and slowly said a sentence that shocked Ji, "Because it was your dad who told me to come." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "What did you say?" But she was thrown directly onto the bed by Boss Chandada. He also pounced onto the bed, taking off his clothes and saying with a perverted smile, "Come on, baby, you can call me daddy from now on too." Ji shut her eyes in terror and screamed. "Get lost." Boss Chin remained hunched over, pressing his body tightly against hers. "Give daddy a kiss." Ji tried to push him away in disgust, cursing, "Get away from me, you damn pig." She remembered the happy scene from before in her mind, thinking in disbelief, no, it's impossible. Dad clearly bought me expensive jewelry today and took me to a 5-star seafood restaurant for dinner. Pinned down and unable to escape, Ji-Yu's eyes glistened with painful tears as she thought, Dad was clearly so good to me. It can't be Dad, the person who raised me for so many years. Just then, the door was suddenly thrown open, and a person rushed into the room, striking Boss Chun on the back of the neck. That person was Wen Ruomian. She knocked him out with a powerful blow. Boss Chun collapsed onto the bed. Ji-Yu also sat up, still staring at her blankly. Wen Ruomian also choked up, asking in a trembling voice of disbelief, "Xiaoyu, are you okay?" Hot tears welled up in Ji-Yu's eyes, her lips trembling as she stammered, Sister one." She quickly threw herself in her arms and burst into tears. Wen Ruomian gently stroked Ji-Yu's hair, repeatedly comforting her. "It's okay now. It's okay now." Afterward, she rushed her to the hospital. Ji-Yu sat dejectedly on the bed, hugging her knees with her head resting on them. A nurse hesitantly reported the news. "Dr. Gu." She pulled out her foreline again. Zepping nodded slightly in response. "I see. Thank you for your hard work." Inside, Wen Ruomian asked disappointedly in a worried voice, "How long has she been like this?" Zepping shook his head slightly, pursing his lips as he explained, "Ever since she was brought in last night, she's been resisting treatment. Her physiological signs are fine. It must be a psychological issue. Does she have any relatives?" She let out a weary breath, her expression pained as she replied, "I once asked her about her mother, but she said she was missing." Zepping also nodded and offered a suggestion, "I understand. In that case, you can come to the hospital to see her often." Wen Ruomian lowered her head and agreed thoughtfully, I will. The fact that she's become like this is partly my fault, so my heart aches." As she spoke, she reached out and tightly gripped his sleeve again. Wen Ruomian pursed her lips, her eyes pleading sincerely, "Dr. Gu, when I'm not here, can I ask you to take more care of her?" Zepping quickly nodded in agreement, "Of course. I'm a doctor. Taking care of patients is what I should do." He then slowly reached out and held her hand. Wen Ruomian breathed a sigh of relief and said gratefully, "Thank you, Dr. Gu." Zepping still replied gently, "You don't have to be so polite with me." He held her hand tightly the whole time, and no one noticed that Yingcong had arrived and had been observing everything for some time. A loud voice called out, "Mimi." Wen Ruomian turned her head in surprise and asked, puzzled, "Yingcong, when did you get here?" Yingcong slowly approached her and explained in a low voice, "I've been here for a while." She pursed her lips and asked softly, "Why didn't you call me when you arrived?" A smile played on Yingcong's lips as he replied, "I was having a smoke in the non-smoking area." As soon as he finished speaking, he also put his arm around Wen Ruomian's shoulder. Yingcong looked coldly at Zepping beside her and asked sarcastically, "And every time I come to the hospital, I run into Dr. Gu. Is Dr. Gu a general practitioner?" He took a deep breath and explained gently, "I studied a bit of psychology in college. Miss Wen's friend is not emotionally stable. I thought maybe I could help her." Yingcong also nodded nonchalantly and said politely, "Is that so? Then it's really been hard on you, for our families, Mimi. I won't disturb you then. I'm taking her home now." Zepping also nodded politely and said pointedly, "You don't have to be so polite. I've said it before, her business is my business. I will help her no matter what." Yingcong pushed Wen Ruomian away, his eyes sharp, and said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "Dr. Gu is so good to my girlfriend. Then I'll thank you on her behalf first." After walking a few steps, he strode away first, causing her to hurry after him. "Yingcong, wait for me." Yingcong suddenly stopped, causing Wen Ruomian's forehead to bump into his back. Without turning around, Yingcong just muttered grimly, "Mimi, I thought I wasn't a petty person. You once told me that you only care about me." As he spoke, he wearily raised a hand to cover his face and continued, "But today, he held your hand." When Ruomian listened, as if petrified, Yingcong narrated through gritted teeth, "A man touched his girlfriend's hand, but his girlfriend didn't react and push him away. She pursed her lips, trembling slightly with guilt that I'm sorry." But Yingcong just looked at her and let out a light laugh that don't apologize, really. When Ruomian moved her lips and said softly, "Maybe you won't believe it, but I really wasn't paying attention to Dr. Gu at that moment, and I wasn't thinking about anything else." She sighed deeply and explained in more detail in a gentle voice, "Because my mind was full of Lu Jihan's matter, the exact same thing I experienced, also being betrayed by my own father, also being pushed into the abyss of hell by Lu Zhe. But it seems Lu Ji you can't climb back up. But at this point, when Ruomian choked up with emotion and confessed, if I hadn't met you, would I have also ended up like Lu Ji you? As soon as she finished speaking, Yunqing flicked her on the forehead and scolded softly, silly girl. When Ruomian closed her eyes from the sting, he gently lifted her face and advised, stop dwelling on the past. You have to live for the present. Look at what's in front of you. Yunqing smiled gently, his voice melodious and certain. The person who pulled you out of hell, Song Yunqing, is right in front of you. When Ruomian looked up, her bright eyes looking at him, as she called out with a sob, Yunqing. He sighed softly and held out his hand pitifully, asking, now he wants to go home with you. Would you do me the honor? This made her laugh out loud with joy. The corners of Wen Ruomian's mouth turned up happily, her eyes sparkling with a gentle light as she stared intently at Yunqing. Then she frankly grabbed his hand and pulled him along. Let's go home. The night was deep, a crescent moon hanging behind layers of thin clouds. When Ruomian was lying on the bed, gripping the sheets tightly, her eyes closed and trembling. Yunqing was on top of her, the whole room filled with a passionate and beautiful atmosphere. After a long while, he held her tightly, his eyes lowered, and suddenly remembered something. Oh right, wifey, I forgot to tell you, there's news about Lu Zhe. Hearing this, when Ruomian's eyes flew wide open and she cursed, what? Why didn't you say so earlier? Yunqing even answered honestly with a light laugh. Weren't we engaged in an important activity just now? I didn't have time to say it. She immediately cursed angrily. You idiot, an animal that thinks with its lower body. What if something went wrong? Meanwhile, elsewhere, someone shouted, stop. Lu Zhe looked worried, asking himself in a panic, how did the European side find out about my arms deal tricks so quickly? Didn't I spread the news that it was Bayan who snatched it? The group of mysterious men searched everywhere, cursing, damn it, where did he run off to? Go check over there. Lu Zhe hid in a corner, took out his phone, and looked at the message from the buyer from Yamiao country, Boss Chun. He breathed a sigh of relief and smiled confidently. Boss Chun really is a man of his word. It wasn't for nothing that I dragged his daughter into this. Time passed. On a fresh morning, Lu Zhe, in disguise, was walking leisurely down the street when suddenly two strange men grabbed him tightly, making him shout in panic. Who are you? What do you want? One of the men, with a towel wrapped around his head, frowned and asked, you're asking who we are? Aren't you the one selling toys? Lu Zhe was confused by this and asked in a rapid-fire manner, selling toys? What toys? Big brother, did you get the wrong person? Just as he finished asking, he suddenly guessed, could they be the buyers Boss Chun mentioned? So Lu Zhe hurriedly nodded and corrected himself. Oh, right, I'm the one selling toys. Sorry, my mind blanked for a moment. May I ask who your boss is? The man with the towel on his head crossed his arms and said with a sneer, a Thai woman, our madam likes your big toys. He was delighted to hear this, marveling to himself, a Thai madam, she must be a big shot. I'm going to be rich this time. Lu Zhe smiled happily and praised, your madam has great taste. This batch of toys of mine are all VIP goods from Europe. Let's go. I'll take you to get the goods. He quickly led the way, pointing to a truck and announcing, the goods are in this container. I marked it. Wait a moment, brothers. Lu Zhe still casually opened the container door, calculating to himself with a pleased expression, haha, after this deal is done, I'll take a few beauties to Italy for a vacation. However, as the truck door opened, when Ruomian was standing inside, pointing a gun straight at him, Lu Zhe's eyes widened in shock, unable to believe it. When Ruomian said in a low, grim voice, Lu Zhe. When Ruomian announced through gritted teeth, it's time for you to pay the price. As soon as she finished speaking, bang, a deafening gunshot rang out, blood splattering, a dazzling splash of crimson. Lu Zhe clutched his bleeding arm and fled in a panic. Hey, where are you going? Don't you want your madam's goods? Just then, another bullet hit the back of his knee. Lu Zhe fell to his knees in pain, groaning, When Ruomian stood behind him, laughing mockingly at Lu Zhe. Don't you get it yet? She still had her gun pointed at him, explaining sternly, there is no one buying the goods, and there is no time, madam. When Ruomian glared furiously, announcing through gritted teeth, there's only my revenge. Hearing this, a smile slowly formed on Lu Zhe's lips. Is that so? What a pity then. He carefully reached into his pocket, took something out, and said grimly, if you won't let me live in peace, As he spoke, Lu Zhe violently pulled out a long knife, veins popping on his neck as he shouted, "Then you can go to hell with me again." But before he could make a move, another powerful foot suddenly kicked him hard in the stomach. Yunqing appeared swiftly, holding Wen Ruomian tightly. While his foot kicked Lu Zhe away fiercely. He frowned, his gaze sharp and cold as he said, "It's enough for you to go to hell alone." Kicked away, Lu Zhe's eyes widened as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The kick made him lose his balance and fall straight into the sea, screaming in panic. With a splash, Lu Zhe fell straight into the cold seabed. Yunqing and Wen Ruomian just watched everything coldly. She let out a soft sigh, a light shining in her eyes as she thought, "Lu Zhe, from the day you killed me for the insurance money, you are no longer my father. Today, the score between you and me is finally settled." The sun gradually set, and night fell over the magnificent city of Beijing. A girl with short blonde hair stood blankly by the window, the faint silver moonlight shining on her. Wen Ruomian slowly walked into the room, her voice soft and full of gratitude. "Nasha, thank you. If it weren't for you this time, I couldn't have found Lu Zhe so easily." The girl named Nasha shook her head slightly and said, "You don't have to be so polite with me." She pursed her lips and repeated with a smile, "You and I are friends who have been through thick and thin. What's a small matter like this?" Wen Ruomian also nodded in agreement, "Yeah." Wen Ruomian looked at Nasha again and sighed regretfully. "But speaking of which, you used to cherish your hair so much. Why did you cut it so short?" Nasha touched her hair and explained, "Those few years in Thailand were stormy, and long hair was too much trouble, so I just cut it off." Wen Ruomian nodded and smiled. Yeah, short hair is also very beautiful." Nasha blinked and replied, "Thanks." She suddenly remembered something and announced seriously, "All right, I checked that batch of weapons and found that half of it is missing." Wen Ruomian was shocked to hear this, her face filled with worry and disbelief. "How could this be? Weren't you having people monitor it all the time?" Nasha shrugged nonchalantly and guessed, "Maybe someone moved it before we did." Wen Ruomian held her chin in thought, "Who could it be?" But a second later, Nasha handed her a glass of wine and advised, "Don't think about it so much." She clinked glasses with Wen Ruomian and announced excitedly, "To our reunion. Let's not go home until we're drunk tonight." Wen Ruomian also raised her glass in response. "Okay." Meanwhile, in another part of Beijing, a group of mysterious men rushed in, and the man in the lead ordered, "Surround this place." A junior staff member asked in a low voice, "What are you trying to do?" The female staff member next to him also said to each other in a panic, "Quick, contact Mr. Nie." Wen Ruomian, the long-haired man in the lead, asked loudly, "Who's in charge here?" Ruomian slowly stepped forward and answered, "I am." "Who are you people?" the long-haired man demanded coldly. "You took my boss's things. Hand them over." Ruomian explained calmly and gently, "We are buy-in, and we welcome all kinds of guests, but we have never taken anything from our guests. Could it be that you've made some kind of mistake?" He sneered upon hearing this. "You won't admit it, right?" As soon as he finished speaking, the long-haired man pointed his gun straight at her, his eyes grim as he affirmed, "I am 100% sure you took it. Now either hand over the goods, or don't blame me for being impolite. I'm telling you, bullets have no eyes, and I don't know where they might hit." Ruomian raised her hands in alarm, still repeating blankly, "I really don't know what you're talking about." The long-haired man ordered loudly, "Search for me." The subordinates replied, "Yes." She hurriedly raised her voice to stop them. "Wait, you can't." But the long-haired man threatened with a sneer, "Don't move. It wouldn't be good to ruin that pretty face of yours." A moment later, the subordinates hurriedly carried 3 boxes and reported, "Boss, we found it." They threw the boxes on the ground and announced, "The things are all here." The boxes were opened, revealing a pile of guns inside. Ruomian was stunned as if struck by lightning and murmured, "This is..." She asked herself in a panic, "Impossible. Where did these things come from?" Afterward, the order to arrest her came, "Take her away." Ruomian struggled in vain. "Let go of me." After hearing the news, Yunqing earnestly comforted Wen Ruomian, "Me, calm down." But she was still distraught, shouting angrily. Sister Ruomian was taken away by people from the European Honor Society. Her life is on the line. How do you expect me to calm down? Yunqing quickly grabbed her shoulders and explained sternly, "Precisely because the other party is the European Honor Society, the largest underground organization in Europe. We must first figure out the reason before we have a chance to rescue Ruomian." When Ruomian completely covered her face, asking herself in a choked and pained voice, why? Why won't they let us go even after Lu Zhe is dead? But Yunqing shook his head in denial. I don't think he was the one who did this. Yunqing stroked his chin, his eyes deep in thought as he calculated carefully. Before he died, he still thought his goods were at the port in Cambodia. It's impossible for him to have called someone else to do it after he died. Upon hearing this, Wen Ruomian asked blankly, then who could it be? But he just shook his head slightly and replied softly, it's not clear yet. The kidnappers should be calling soon. His words proved true, as a moment later, the phone in her pocket began to ring nonstop. Wen Ruomian hurriedly answered the call, shouting, Ruoshi. As soon as the video connected and she saw Ruoshi tied up on the other end, she cried out in anguish, no. The long-haired man tilted his head slightly and greeted President Een, long time no see. Een Sikhin gripped his phone tightly, snarling through gritted teeth, Victor. The man named Victor chuckled with amusement. I didn't expect President Een to still remember me. I'm so pleased. Een Sikhin took a deep breath and asked coldly through clenched teeth, what do you want? We can talk. Just don't hurt the hostage. Hearing this, Victor let out a soft laugh and nodded in appreciation. President Een is as straightforward as they say. In that case, I'll get straight to the point. He raised an eyebrow and said sharply, I want Bua City. Een Sikhin narrowed his eyes, his expression turning grim as he stated, Bua City is a legitimate business. It's useless to you. But Victor was unfazed. Whether it's useless or not isn't for you to decide. With that, he grabbed Ruoshi's hair, pressed a sharp knife to her face, and threatened menacingly, I'll give you some time to consider. For every extra day you take, I'll take something from her. Wen Ruomian covered her mouth in panic, crying out, please don't. Een Sikhin quickly raised a hand to soothe her and nodded in acceptance. Fine, I'll consider it. But if she's harmed in any way in the meantime, I will make sure you don't get what you want. Victor's lips curled into a satisfied smirk. Deal. You have 3 days. With that, the call ended. Wen Ruomian frowned at the phone, asking in confusion, who was that? How do you know him? Een Sikhin shook his head slightly, his mind elsewhere as he stroked his chin. We'll talk about that later. Right now, we need to figure out a way to rescue Ruoshi and protect Bua City. Wen Ruomian narrowed her eyes in confusion again. Why does he want Bua City? He sighed softly and explained in a low voice, because they want to enter the Asian market, and Bua City is the best trading network.